11th, 2022. I'd ask you if you'd be kind enough to silence your cell phones. Travis, if you would call the roll, please.
Mayor Owen.
Here.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Sacks.
Here.
Commissioner Colodi.
Present.
Commissioner Harmon.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to begin as always with an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Police Department Chaplain Thomas Prusnell will lead us in the invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we're so grateful and thankful that those of us here today made it through the storm, and we're grateful. We're grateful for that. We pray for those that did not fare so well. We grieve with them, Lord, and we also are grateful for this wonderful partnership that we've got together here, Lord, with private citizens and private industries and local government, state government, and federal government that dovetail together so well to help us in this time of need. I pray for your continued guidance with wisdom and discernment for these commissioners, Lord, that continue to give us this excellent leadership and that they'll be able to make the hard decisions and give them that wisdom to do that. And as always, Lord, we pray that you'd put your hedge of protection around them and all that they accomplish here today would bring you the glory. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I know Khaled has a couple of changes on the agenda to bring us up to date on, and one I think to ask about. So I'd ask everyone just pay attention during this section real quick, and we'll get some changes to the agenda from Khaled.
Yes, sir. The first one is we are continuing item 6C, and that is to consider the approval of the renewal or termination of the ground lease agreement between Airgates and the city of New Smyrna Beach to the next meeting, October the 25th. The other items is we're adding ordinance number 73-22, and that's an emergency ordinance of the city of New Smyrna Beach to temporary waiving the enforcement of section 802.06 of the LDR for 60 days to allow for residents who have suffered flood damage as a result of Hurricane Ian to reside in RVs or campers while they're restoring their properties.
Where, Khaled, do we want this to go on the agenda?
We will go under first reading, under 9, it would be 9.
It's under actually second readings and public hearings.
Okay.
It's up for adoption tonight.
So we'll do
Okay.
8C. So we're going to add an item 8C related to waiver of some things related to RVs and campers. We'll go into more detail on that when we get there.
And then,
Any others?
yes, and then we are continuing items 10A and 10B. That's for the Police Pension Board and the Planning and Zoning Board to the next meeting on October the 25th.
Okay, so continuing 10A and 10B, adding item 8C. Item 6C is continued to the next meeting. And then the last one, I had asked if it was okay with the commission after this proclamation under 4A, if we could add a 4B and have Khaled give us a hurricane update. I'd like to do that early in the meeting if possible. Is that okay with everyone? Seeing no objections, Khaled will add an item 4B for a hurricane update, and that'll allow some time for us to have some discussion as well on that. Okay. Everyone is okay with those changes. We will move on. We have a proclamation for Pink Out Month. So I'm going to head down there. If y'all all want to join me, I guess maybe in a minute or now. Let's come on down. Come on down. And we'll get Bob up here. So we're going to have 6 men read about this. We'll fix that next year. All right, this is declaring October as Pink Out Month. Whereas breast cancer is a very dangerous and commonly diagnosed cancer, ranking the second leading cause of cancer deaths among women in the United States. Approximately 20,920 Florida women will be diagnosed with breast cancer and approximately 3,100 will have passed away from the disease in 2022. And every woman is at risk for breast cancer, even if she has no family history of the disease, but women at the age of 50 are at the greatest risk. And the color pink, especially pink ribbons, is the internationally recognized color of breast cancer awareness. And this month and throughout the year, I ask all citizens of New Smyrna to join in support of our fellow Americans and New Smyrnians diagnosed with breast cancer, those who are in remission and those who have lost a loved one to this disease. I therefore do hereby declare the month of October 2022 as Peak Out Month in New Smyrna and urge all citizens to recognize the importance of early cancer screening, detection, and encouraging others to take the steps to increase awareness and have a plan to help detect the disease in early stages. And I can add on a personal note, last year I think it was, right here in our public safety over in the police department, we had one of our very valued employees that battled breast cancer. I think early detection helped save her life, and she is now not a breast cancer victim, but a breast cancer survivor, and we're so proud of that. We're all wearing these shirts tonight. Bubba's here representing the fire department. These are available at Station 50. This is the one right there next to the Wawa on 44, or near the Wawa on 44. All these proceeds from these shirts are going to a local breast cancer awareness and treatment charity. So that's what this represents today. So join me in celebrating or proclaiming and the awareness of October as Pink Out Month. Okay, as mentioned, we're going to have staff give us a hurricane update. Won't have all the answers yet, of course, but just a chance to do kind of an initial debrief and some discussion as a commission on what we've kind of seen and experienced, or what we know to date, and any news that we need to help or decisions that need to be made. So with that, I'll turn it over to Khaled.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. Before I start, and I think first and foremost, my heart goes out to all the residents in New Smyrna Beach who were negatively impacted by this hurricane. We have quite a few areas that were impacted hard. I've dealt with 6 hurricanes, 2 tornadoes, 4 tropical storms through my tenure in New Smyrna, and this is by far is the most that had impact in the city of New Smyrna Beach. We went from the preparation of the hurricane to the rescue and search, and to the recovery in a matter of 2 days. I'm not going to go spend so much time on the preparation, but I could tell you on the rescue and the rescue and recovery, and also on the search. I have to tell you that your city staff was probably heroic in this storm and this hurricane I've never seen before. Right after the hurricane ended, our guys were out there, the fire, police, maintenance op, and leisure services. We evacuated 175 people during this. Obviously, we were not prepared for 20 inches of rainfall. The city received the highest rainfall in Volusia County, 21 inches. Top it off with the highest wind gust at 96 miles per hour. Now, to put that in perspective, in terms of stormwater, the 100-year storm is 13.5 inches. So 21 inches go far beyond that. They're saying it's a 500-year storm, and I would say it's probably between the 500 and the 1,000-year storm. Most of the subdivisions and the areas in the city that were built in the 90s were designed for a 100-year storm. Now, prior to that were when the houses were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I don't think they even met the 25-year storm. That they have attachment to the Turnbull Creek and the Turnbull Bay, where it's risen 4 feet, they were impacted. I have asked the engineering staff to go out to the field and survey the areas and see how many homes got flooded. And to the shocking, if you look at this map, and this is so far, I mean, I'm sure that there is some more homes, but so far we have about 840 homes that we know of. And you could see that some areas were heavily impacted, such as Pine Island, the Country Club Chalet, Walker Street, Green Road, some homes on Sunset along the Turnbull Bay in Islesboro, some houses on the beach side, but not as much as we have inland. Now, our firemen, they went out there trying to rescue these people. We didn't have, I mean, we couldn't get to the area, so we used fire trucks. We used any heavy equipment we have. But the one story that would stick to my mind forever is the phone call that we got at the Emergency Operations Center, where all the firemen were out in the field. And the phone call was that we have someone who just had a brain surgery laying in bed at the end of Wayne Avenue, and the water is about 1 inch below the mattress. And everybody was out. The only equipment that I could think of immediately was the vacuum truck. So we evacuated this gentleman to a family residence in a vacuum truck. That would stick in my mind forever. We contacted the National Guard to help us. They came in, thankfully, they helped us. Our maintenance operations staff were out there trying to pump out of the areas where they could find an area to pump to. We were trying to get the roads passable. You know, 44 had probably some areas where you couldn't pass, same thing as Pioneer Trail. But in 2 days, which really it gives me a good indication, the water receded, which tells you right there that the system is working, but it was overloaded. So it's like having a cup of water and you're trying to put a jug in it. But it receded, so it took us about 2-3 days to get area where it's passable. There is one area in particular that we had to go and pump under the railroad track because I couldn't pump over it. So we got a permission from the railroad track and we were pumping underneath. Another topic that really kind of got us off guard is the shelter. We were not prepared for a shelter because that is the county's responsibility. We don't handle shelters. We are not equipped for shelters. But evacuating 175 people from this storm, how are we going to transfer them over to the shelter? I mean, we were having a hard time to just evacuate them from their homes. So the decision was that I decided that let's open a temporary shelter at the city gym. We didn't have any food, we didn't have any bedding, but I have to tell you, that just to show you the value of the staff that you have. We have our leisure services director who's been with us probably over 6-7 months, jumped in, we opened the shelter, we contacted the county for food, they provided food. Our fire chief and fire staff, we had about 50 cots that we have at fire stations. We have some mats, blankets, and within probably hours, we had a shelter. Nobody in the county had a shelter as fast as we had. I mean, the county were prepared to have a shelter. So we housed them temporarily until Saturday, and then the county opened their shelters at the Ocean Center, and that's when the county transported them over there. That's right there, it tells you the kind of staff that we have, and I'm so proud of them. We provided over 700 meals in 3 different events. that were provided by some of the churches and also from a restaurant in Orlando. We advertised for it, but obviously a lot of people don't have internet, so our firemen, they took it upon themselves. They put the food on the fire truck and they went to the impacted areas and distributed these meals to the people who were impacted. And that was appreciated by the people there. If you tour the area, the impacted area, I've toured just about all of it, and it just breaks your heart because what happened is they have everything that they own by the curb. Our next movement was on the debris removal, and obviously this is something this is what we expect from the debris removal. In this particular hurricane, the amount of construction and demolition material is just beyond believable. So if you've seen the trucks are dual, and they're big trucks. So we divided the zone, the city into 4 zones, and I was trying to see how it's going to work in the zones. It doesn't mean that if it's one, we're going to pick it first and second. This is just, it's 4 zones. We have trucks in each zone. And this is kind of follow the commission district line because it's really, we followed kind of the road. So it'll be easier for the trucks when they go out there because I want to make sure that I touch every zone, number one, and I want to touch the impacted area first. So far, as of yesterday, I don't have the numbers for today, but as of yesterday, I have 11,338 cubic yards of yard debris. That amounts to 229 loads. So in reality, when you have the double or the dual, so you have, instead of 9 trucks or 10 trucks, you have 20. And each zone have that. Now, the difference between the yard debris and the construction and demolition debris, the yard debris is transported into our yards behind the transfer station. They mulch it and they haul it. It's a lot faster than the C&D because the C&D, we have to go to the landfill, dump it, and come back. So, I mean, I'm looking to get it as fast as possible. I was talking to our maintenance operation director this morning. I talk to him probably 15, 20 times a day. But in particular today, I wanted to have more trucks because C&D is taking quite a bit. We went out to Pine Island in particular. We couldn't make a dent because just 2 homes, they will fill up 1 truck. And by the time we moved out of there, they had more stuff inside the home and put it out. So I probably will meet with Phillips and Jordan soon to see if we can get more trucks for C&D because I've never seen in any hurricanes that I dealt with in terms of the C&D as much as we have today. Our police officers, they were out there from day one. And the phone calls that they received and they responded to, 1,880 calls, ranging from fire alarm to hazard in the road, to check on somebody's wellness, helping other departments. They had 2 dead bodies that they had to deal with, and nobody will take them. Finally, we made the call to the county, and we took care of that. But having such a small police unit that they went out there and they worked, I mean, everybody worked probably, 90 and 100 hours. I did not probably, in the past 4 days, I probably slept maybe 10 hours overall. But I cannot express my appreciation to the city staff and their dedication that they showed during the storm, that it's just beyond believable. With the stuff that was thrown at us without having even any preparation for it because we were not expecting it. We were preparing for, based on the information we received from the Emergency Operations Center, just a typical storm, some yard debris, some minor flooding, localized flooding, but it wasn't a 21 inch of rainfall. Again, my heart goes out to these people. We will do everything possible to clean it up as fast as possible. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. I've got a few, we've always got lessons learned, and we'll come down the line.
Oh,
and
Mayor,
talk
just,
through-
I
Sure, go
forgot
ahead.
to mention a couple of things on policies. So immediately in terms of policies, we have, on this agenda, you have to, an ordinance to waive permit fee for any permits related to storm. The other one is the one we added on the agenda, which that's to suspend under emergency ordinance for having an RV or camper in front of the house. And I will be probably at the next meeting, I'm going to come up with some other items in terms of looking at, and this might sound crazy, but I'm going to look into it legally to see if for any subdivision that it's 25 lots or more, that we ought to look at maybe designing for a 500-year storm. I think that's probably overboard, but I think it's something that I need to look into and come back with a recommendation to the commission. So, thank you.
Well deserved. As I was saying, there's lessons learned. We're going to come through and share some of that. But I have to say, certainly staff just cannot say enough about the hard work of our team. I happened to a couple days after the storm. So this is Friday or Saturday. I ran into one of our employees, Royce, who's our street supervisor. And I was talking to him, and he's out there working to help pump water away from other people's homes. And I said, well, how's your house? He said, oh, I'm through, and I'm standing in water. It's going to be, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was like, well, can I help? Like, what are you doing? Like, how can I help? He's like, I've been home for a few hours. Like, I've been out here helping everyone else. So we had city employees, and this goes, we have our, police and fire. I mean, they're always heroes. They're heroes every day, and they certainly were in this event. They rose to the occasion. But I think we've got to call out every other city employee was on call doing everything they could, and the unsung heroes, I think, are those folks that are out there making sure storm drains are clean. The streets folks, the maintenance folks that are normally, maybe they're mowing the lawn in the park, and now all of a sudden they're out doing this, and they're doing that while they know their family is at home, and they're out there working hard still for us. So, and that goes, by the way, professional staff all the way down. You go to the EOC and you see, the traditionally what we call the white collar folks. The HR director was there, not with her family in the storm, but she's there making sure city payroll got ran, so that all those employees at least had a paycheck in their bank account as it was scheduled to be. HR director was there. City attorney staff was represented. So many other of our professional staff was represented. So certainly a huge thank you on behalf of the citizens for all of those things. So genuinely. I've got a couple other things that I'd love to just talk through, and I don't know if now's the time to do that, or if we want to go.
If I could just add one more.
Sure.
I mean, even the day before the storm, I went with a neighbor to pick up sandbags, and staff was out there, code enforcement was out in the rain, helping people with sandbags.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
We probably do all of our comments now.
Okay, go ahead.
Throughout the storm, I did keep in touch with Collin. They were doing an excellent job before the storm in the preparation, during it, and they're still doing it now and will continue to do it. One thing that we really have to think about is how do we prevent or minimize what happened to us during this storm? I've lived here through about 8 of these hurricanes now. Everyone is different. Does it come across the state? Does it go up the coast? Does it come on the coast? Strong winds, different directions. Prior to the storm, the Federal Hurricane Center did predict there would be a good-sized storm surge in the Turnbull Bay area. It only happens when a set of circumstances comes together to make it worse. You can't predict some of those things. You just have to try to be prepared for it. And we did a good job overall. Now, when Khalid describes 25-year storms and 50-year storms, doesn't mean it's going to be 25 years or 50 years till the next one. It could happen next year. It's the overall frequency they're talking about. So we really got to be prepared, as we were for this one, and perhaps a little more prepared in where we think the damage could occur. One of the things that did worry me was that there was really no emergency route out of town. You couldn't go down 44, couldn't go down Pioneer Trail unless you had a very large vehicle. So we were isolated here for a while, and we had to live within our own resources. If we had suffered what happened on the West Coast, we would have been in real problems. Here, it was a bad event, a big event. It can come again. We got to look into some additional planning that may involve the county and maybe even the state. We have some neighborhoods like Pine Island that conceivably can be protected, the entire neighborhood, so they're not subjected to this overall inundation. So we really have a lot of work ahead of us. I know how complicated it can be because in my profession, I was a hydraulic engineer and a safety engineer regarding water. So I look forward to us preparing for the next step. I know, speaking with Khalid, a couple small items has come up that we can address now in case we have another big storm in the next 30 days or whenever. I know we're all looking at the hurricane charts these days. So
Okay,
thank you for your time.
thank you. Any comments, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I think Mayor said it best, and Khalid also said what staff did, fire, police, leisure services, Rob, you know, I had some family members who were flooded, evacuated, and I saw some amazing things. Very, very proud of the staff and what everybody did and had to do basically on the fly. I watched that city gym become an emergency shelter right on the fly. We did what we had to do, and the people showed up who needed to show up and had to show up, and I am eternally grateful for that and the commitment and hard work that our staff has shown in dealing with a very difficult time. These floods certainly got us caught off guard. To exceed the 100-year storm by roughly 4 or 5 inches in a 24-hour period, you know, I've seen for many years these FEMA flood map projections and just exactly how it happened. More inland than coastal. Everyone thinks storm surge and flooding is a coastal issue. The homes on the barrier island, the homes near the river, they all fared fairly well for the most part. The inland areas, Ellison Acres, Pine Island, Fairgreen, these areas with all these tidal creeks that run through them, I mean, you know, their elevation is 5 to 7 feet above the base flood. And it's shocking to watch what those FEMA maps showed would actually happen in this somewhere between 100 and 500 year flood, which is one of the reasons why everybody's saying we've never seen this before. Yes, we have no documentation of ever having 21 inches of rain within a 24-hour period. It is what has happened to people. Over 850 structures flooded, most of them homes, is devastating. Fire and flooding is probably is by far the most significant impact to someone's life that they can experience. It's not patch a hole and dry the floor and throw a tarp on. It is long-lasting and deeply affecting. And we have a lot of hurt in the community, and we need to find ways. And the things that I have seen from the people, the public, the employees, citizens, church groups, everybody's trying to do anything they can to help the people who need it the most. So I take my hat off to all those people and the tremendous job that they're doing. I did mention Khalid in my agenda briefing. We understand things better by visual. I would love to be able to hire a flood engineer expert to give us some modeling of what exactly happened in the community. So number one, we all can understand visually what actually happened. And the more we see it, I learn visually much better than you telling me something technical. So being able to have some sort of modeling that shows exactly how much rain came, shows the area, shows the areas that got flooded, why they got flooded, what conditions created that, will also not only help the people today, but will certainly help us in the future going forward, dealing with these kinds of issues and things that we may be able to deal with in terms of future development. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything to add, Jim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was dumbstruck when I saw that in Fort Myers, the storm had made landfall and the live oak trees in my backyard were bent over, the fence was gone, little water in the Florida room. And then my wife and I had gotten in the pickup truck the next morning, and whether there was a curfew or not, I was going out to inspect my zone, which I love very dearly. The strange thing is when a terrible event like this happens, neighbors come out to meet each other. And they not only meet each other and greet each other, they help each other. So not only do we have heroes in our city that work for our city, we have heroes that live here. Just about everyone was a hero. And I thank everyone for being there for each other. The thing that really bothered me and it shook me beyond tears, you couldn't cry, you didn't know what to do. I mean, I've been through about 15 hurricanes, including Miami's hurricanes, which were the worst. But to go down the street and see leaf clutter, because as soon as the storm left, people were already out there helping each other, cleaning their yards. But then you go by one particular house and the whole contents of the house was outside. And by that time, water was already receding. But you could see the high water mark, and you knew that the water had, in a big sheet, had flown through. And I recall speaking to someone about Florida in general, knowing that Florida is marsh, it is swamp, it is basically a big porous coral rock. So the big surprise was the 20 some odd inches. That was apocalyptic and epic. I think we are a very resilient bunch of New Smyrnans. Like many Floridians, we're tough. And I just want to say what an honor it is to live here and to have worked with and tried to help. And I know it's going to be a long road back, but it's like that elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You get through it. You will get through it. If the city can, it will do everything it can to help. So I want to thank staff again, and I want to thank my neighbors. We got through another hard time, and we'll be prepared better. We'll be resilient, as we've always tried to be. That's one of the foremost guidelines that keep me afloat. So thank you, everybody.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here, healthy and well. We'll go on to the next season.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Hopefully we can get through the rest of this season without something
Yeah,
else.
we're
So
not there yet.
I've got a list of just a couple of things I just want to put on the radar. We don't have to go back and discuss them all. I just want to, things that came up while I was out in the community driving around, as many of you all did. I just want to make sure they're on the record, because a lot of this, storm decompression and analysis and planning for the next one will come after my time. So I just want to kind of get this out there. Khalid, you used the phrase a couple of times, and this isn't, I'm not saying this derogatorily by any stretch, but we weren't prepared for what we saw. And so my question is, I think Vice Mayor said it, how can we prepare better? Now we've seen it. So we can say that the first time, but I don't think we can say it the next time. So we can't change homes that were built in the 80s. We can't change a lot of things in the past, but what can we change moving forward? So, a couple of things, shelter, I mean, I think we probably, now we've seen that. And so I think going into it, we just are always kind of prepared to maybe we've got 50 to 100, spots that we can, in an emergency, take, not long-term shelter, but a short-term shelter. Boats, I mean, some kind of a boat situation. I mean, we ended up in a spot where we had MRAPs. We had the largest vehicles we could get, and they couldn't get into certain areas, and we were recruiting, my neighbor is Andy West. He's a former fire guy, and I think they called him, and he drug his John boat out, and, so everybody was chipping in, as Jake said, but I think having that, and I know it's on your list as well, but I think we've got to make that investment, along with any other high water vehicles we can get. Having cell towers deployed, some people were mentioning afterwards, hey, would it be possible for us to get cell towers deployed pre-storm or, in the general area, and then wherever it's hit worst in Volusia County, maybe we can be activated to the hard-hit areas, because I know communication was tough. A lot of folks were trying to do the safety, the wellness checks, and it was hard to figure out, could we just not get a hold of them because of cell service, or could we not get a hold of them because there was an issue? And so all of those calls, those frantic calls, were flooding into our police department, which created a triage nightmare, because you had no clue. I mean, you got, 1,880 calls that were saying, how do you know which ones are the absolute urgent, they're, going underwater, versus they just, they're high and dry, but their cell phone's not working. So, pumps, I mean, we always have our pumps deployed. In this case, we had nowhere to put the water. Once, that was a common thing. I was driving around, people were like, well, hey, can I get a pump here? I'm like, I can get you the pump, but where are you going to put this water? Like, look around you, it's all a lake. Like, where are we going to pump this water? I like the flood expert idea. I like the policies we've got on the agenda tonight, the fee waivers, the RV stuff, we're responding appropriately. Two last steps, FEMA. I know we're in talks with FEMA. I know we're pushing, Commission, Khaled's pushing, I'm pushing. We're trying to get FEMA reps here face-to-face with our residents in New Smyrna Beach. I don't want them behind an online. I don't want them behind an 800 number. I want them face-to-face in our community, seeing some of this. FEMA's not the end-all be-all. They're not gonna, they're not gonna rebuild every home. They're not gonna solve every problem, but they can help, and they can certainly help an immediate need. So I think we've got to keep the pressure on to get FEMA here in the area. And the last one, I'm going to talk about this again at the end, but I just want to put it on the radar. To me, after an event like this, while we do that flood expert, while we bring that person in, while we're out here still analyzing the damage, I would love to see us take a 3 to 4 to 6 months, whatever the time frame is, but press pause on large-scale developments until we fully process the lessons learned from this event, and make sure that we don't, at the next thing, make sure at the next thing we don't approve something that will further the problems that we saw in this storm. And I'm not saying, that there's a lot of theories around all of that. I just would like to take some time to learn the lessons before we just accelerate on. We're already down in planning staff. We already have some other challenges. So I'm going to bring that back up at the end. I just wanted to kind of put it out there for now, so you all can be thinking about that. And that's not anything we can do tonight. That'll have to come back from staff, so we can all talk about that and see if we want that to come back.
Mayor, if I
Go
may just add a few things. Everything that you listed, we already have. We're talking about the debriefing. I attended the debriefing with the fire today, and I will have debriefing with all the department directors probably sometime this week. But one thing I forgot to mention, and it's very important, it was an important factor. The Utilities Commission had a rep at the EOC, and that helped quite a bit. We had 27,000 customers that were out of power in the beginning, as soon as the hurricane got over, even before that. But by the time, I guess, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I think we had close to 0% that didn't have any power. They worked diligently. They had about 115 people from outside the area, from different states that came in to help us. But the saddest thing is we had 2 employees that they actually got hurt while they're trying to restore power at Phoenician Bay. One of them had a bad injury, but I heard that he's doing much better than at that time. So my thank to the Utilities Commission for their efforts at having somebody with us at the Emergency Operations Center. I think that helped us quite a bit because, as you know, a lot of questions were about power.
Yep.
And the other thing I forgot to mention in my briefing is our Community Information Center. Typically what happens is as soon as we activate our Emergency Operations Center, we open the CIC. And we opened from 8 to 6. In the first 3 days, we were open 24/7. Now it's open from 8 to 5. So we have employees who volunteer to go there. And I want to thank HR for, manning that CIC and then manage it and then have other employees. There's not employee in the city that I know of have not participated in the CIC if they're not essential employees. So I don't want to forget that. And the Utilities Commission, again, super job to get that power restored by Wednesday. I know it took 3-4 days, but just remember, 27,000 people were out of power. So,
Yep. No, that's a great call out on both those points. And when you look at that after a storm, we're the number one priority of the City of New Smyrna Beach Utilities Commission. We're the last priority for FPL. Edgewater's the last priority for FPL, but we're the number one priority for our utility commission. I'm proud of that, and I think they do a fantastic job.
You mentioned about FEMA. From day one, I have asked the county and I asked FEMA rep and the state that we would like to have a FEMA rep in the City of New Smyrna Beach. Right now, starting Wednesday, tomorrow, they just opened the Disaster Recovery Center in Daytona. That is meant. So they've been working on it. I think initially they indicated that they're not going to have any mobile FEMA rep besides the one that they have in Daytona. And we've been stressing at that in every meeting that I have with them, in every conference call. And I even asked them during the conference call yesterday that we would like to have a FEMA rep in the City of New Smyrna because a lot of people lost their vehicles.
Yeah.
So they don't have no transportation to get to Daytona. So we're not quitting on that. And I even mentioned it during, anytime we meet an official, that is my message to them.
Yep. No, we've sent that message between Kyle and myself. We've sent it up Congress, Senate, state rep, all the way up and down the chain that we can. So, all right, we'll keep pushing ahead. Thank you all. Of course, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning for many folks, and we're going to continue to do everything we can. But all right, next item up is public participation. This is your chance to speak. And I ask you just to address your comments to the commission. This is your time. You can say you share your thoughts or comments on anything on the agenda or otherwise. I'll take notes. We don't usually go back and forth, but if there's something you want to share, I'm going to take notes, and we may do some follow-up at the end or ask staff to follow up with you through that. So with that, if you'd like to come ahead, give your name and address for the record for the clerk over there.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Matt Berger, and my address is 917 Locust Street. I'm here to talk to you about flooding on Locust Street, not specifically to Hurricane Ian, but just an ongoing issue, obviously exacerbated by the current hurricane. So the city installed a drainage and pump system on Locust Street along with a lot of other streets on Beachside. Unfortunately, on Locust, it's not working the way that it was intended. To make matters worse, we have a vacant lot there on Locust Street, and it acts as a stormwater catch basin for major stormwater events. Last year, the city considered purchasing this lot. The lot owner had offered to engineer and construct and sell a turnkey stormwater dry retention pond system for the city. And the city engineer stated in a staff report on March 9th in 2021 that this would help alleviate the flooding issues. I attended this meeting and offered my support publicly to purchase the lot, but unfortunately the council voted against that. So the lot has now been purchased by a third party, and it can be developed, which is our concern. If that lot is developed, the residents know that every couple of years during a major summer stormwater event will be a Hurricane Ian for about 8 to 10 of our residents living immediately around us. My wife has been coordinating with the city manager, and thank you, and city engineer and staff over the last year and a half to try to get out ahead of this issue. What kind of things can we put in place to avoid this? And so we're here to talk to you tonight because there is a lot of focus on flooding. And again, thank you for everything that you're all doing to help the city as a whole. But now that this is in the spotlight, she has sent letters to all of you as well. And she included some of the correspondence with previous staff. And in light of that, I really want to give my sincere thanks to Commissioner Sachs. He came out on last Saturday, and met with my neighbors and me, looked into the issue, listened to us all, bend his ear for a couple hours. I thought he was going to have dinner with us that night. So thank you for coming out and giving us the attention that we need for this issue. So what are we asking? We're asking that you all hold a public workshop and help us address the two issues at some point in the future. I know you all have your hands full right now, but we ask that you coordinate with the city manager and staff and set up a public workshop. One, to coordinate with the engineer, the consultant who helped to design the stormwater inlet and pump system, and try to evaluate the system and figure out why it's not working the way it was intended. I don't mean just get it back to the way it was designed. Let's improve it, not just fix it. And then second, how do we coordinate on this vacant lot issue? Again, if that's developed, there's a lot of us, not just Locust, but the adjacent streets that are equally low-lying of those homes there that are going to be in a lot of trouble. Because the only way to develop that lot is to bring in fill dirt and raise it, and then that's just going to be a disaster for everyone. So again, that's our request. We hope that you will work with us in the future. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. Any others? Teresa.
Good evening, Teresa. Excuse me. Teresa Pope, New Smyrna Beach Housing Authority. First, I'd like to say thank you to the city commission, city manager, mayor, and everybody that took care of us during this storm. We had 50 public housing units flooded. 38 of those with up to 2 feet of water inside the unit. The units on Brook Street, which is in the west side part of the neighborhood, are on the 500-year floodplain. The ones on Live Oak Homes, which is Milford, Julia, Washington, and Inwood, those are in the 100, so we did have flood insurance. But I started getting the calls from residents at Thursday morning stating the water was coming into their houses and they couldn't get out. Reached out to the fire marshal, and that's when I guess the city was already starting to make plans. Calls were already coming in. Within 6 hours, the temporary shelter was open. Thank you. I was told that they didn't have the facilities for beds, that they needed to bring blankets and pillows because they would have to lay on the floors, and they didn't have any facilities for cooking. So I reached out to Donna Hinkle, who's here with me tonight. She runs our, excuse me, Under the Stars Ministry, and she opened a soup kitchen, and we fed all the evacuees Thursday night, Friday afternoon, Friday night, and by Saturday morning, I went to Dunkin' Donuts and bought donuts. So, but I want to say thank you to the city, the staff, everybody that worked to make this a doable. And we're all tired. Sometimes I don't even know what day it is now. But I would like to be a part of the planning, the future planning of any kind of emergency shelter we need to put in place.
Of course.
So, thank you.
And we owe you a thanks. Thank you and your team for all that you did. Yeah, thank you. Others?
Hello, My name is Albert Salas. I'm a resident of North Beach, 1818 North Peninsula Avenue. So I got two things I want to talk about. One is, it's really related to the North Beach area of New Smyrna Beach. You know, we have a lot of different elevations here, right? We have the real high dunes, and then we got the low-lying areas. So what we're experiencing is a lot of runoff coming from the higher dunes down to the lower properties. And so my house flooded, structural damage, and other people in the neighborhood. So, the way I see it is, as we build more, houses are putting in pavers and pools. There's just no place for that water to be absorbed, and it's just creating more problems, and we're getting, more flooding. So it's not just this storm, but, we've seen it in some of the just, regular summer storms. So, I think, okay, so how do we move to solutions? I guess the first thing is, why don't we have storm sewers on North Beach? I mean, I think there's a few, but I would think that, that property is pretty valuable. We should have storm sewers. The other thing is maybe the swales. Maybe we could lower the swales a little bit on the sides of the roads, and that could be a retention area for some of the water. And then finally, like somebody else just said, could we start developing retention ponds, to store some of this water and to let it, seep into the aquifer. So beyond that, we also had a problem with the pumping station on Surf Street. I hope you guys are aware of that. We had sewage that backed up into several homes, and that created a couple sinkholes in the area and other damage, and contaminated several homes. So basically, I guess what I like to bring to the table is, we need to start, fortifying things a little bit, trying to make it a little bit better. We might not be able to deal with the 100-year storm, but at least we can make some improvements that can make things better for all of us. I think that's all I got to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How we doing, guys? My name is Alberto Malfitano, 125 Hollow Oak Trail. Don't live in New Smyrna, but I play here, I work here, and I love New Smyrna Beach. So in the last, I would say 2 weeks, we've been preparing meals, probably fed over 1,000, maybe 1,500 folks. We've helped rip out kitchens and flooring and all kinds of stuff from Pine Island to Oak Hill. And today was like probably one of the worst. We were dropping food off to folks, and the area over there by off Josephine Street was hit really, really bad. So that was, I guess the hard part is some of those streets are county, some of them are Edgewater, some of them are New Smyrna. So I don't know really. I didn't have the time to research who was what, but I do know that they have mostly septic and well. So they got about 4 foot of water over there, according to the residents. A lot of them are elderly. They can't get out because the cars are not working, so they can't get their medicine. They have no water to drink. So me and Donna, we scheduled to get 2 pallets of water tomorrow from Publix, hopefully tomorrow or Thursday, to drop off to everybody, but they need more than that. So, I was just bringing that up because the first time I've been down those streets in a long time, and everything's destroyed over there. So I don't know who really is responsible, whether it's county, city, some Edgewater, some people annexed, some people didn't, but it's still New Smyrna, and I just wanted to bring that up. They're really hurting over there.
Has the water receded yet?
It has. It still stinks over there because it's, that gray water.
We can access, we can get back in there.
Yep.
And at least
Oh, yeah.
access
Yeah, I
it.
was back there today dropping off food and water to, what do we got? Pearl Street and James, those streets down there, and Elizabeth Street. They were rocked pretty good. Some of them, they don't even have, a lot of them have gas, so they haven't turned the gas back on, so they can't cook. The water came in so much that all their appliances are shot, so they can't cook. So we're just bringing them stuff that they can heat up in the microwave that we've already prepared for them. But they're definitely hurting. I don't know who needs to go out there, but
Yeah. No, thank you for all you're doing, and we'll have the team. He's going to give you his card here. If you can send him some notes on those exact spots. All right. Any others? Yes, sir. Come ahead. Donald, you can come after him.
Good evening. I'm Kirk Kennedy. I'm at 1608 Beacon Street. I'd like to follow up on the gentleman before this last person and be a little more specific about a request for the commission. On Beacon Street and down North Atlantic towards Surf. There was a project that was started by the Utilities Commission about a year ago. When it started, we were given only a couple of days' notice that a 9-month project was about to begin that was going to dig up the streets in front of our house and destroy landscaping, driveways, everything else. The project started. We could get very little information from the Utilities Commission about the project itself. It shut down in January due to some issues they were having with the contractor. Depending on who you talk to, the contractor said he wasn't getting paid. The Utilities Commission said the work was faulty, and long story short, nothing has happened since January. We live with diesel pumps that run 24/7, pumping raw sewage through above-ground hoses, and a lot of the flooding that we saw along Beacon Street and down at the corner of Surf and North Atlantic seems to be associated with the lack of that lift station functioning properly that's down there that will supposedly eventually be removed from the system. But what we need specifically from the commission is to enforce whatever role you have over the Utilities Commission to get them to communicate with us, to find out when this project will restart and when it will be finished, and what the project entails. They're being incredibly secretive. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but we cannot get the information out of them about what exactly is going on. So I'm here to ask you specifically to do whatever you can in your position to find out for us and communicate with us what's ultimately going to happen with that project.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you'll get a business card from Colin, shoot him an email, we'll get you an update on that. Donna.
First, you've got an item on the agenda tonight for the Turnbull Creek Preservation Board. I stand in honor to be a part of that Turnbull Creek Preservation Board. I'd like to just express two things. Because we watched how the flow of that water worked in Corbin Park when the rains began to rise at 7 inches in my garage, we moved our cars, but the flow of water by that last hour was intense. It was pouring through and going straight down Page, up from the south end of Corb, just like it's supposed to in a field irrigation system. Now, I know that there is a project coming up where you're going to be doing the ditches and sending drainage, but it cannot work if that creek isn't cleaned out. So as I said, all the debris heading to the Turnbull Creek is now bunkering along the sides. That's gas tanks, oil cans that came out of people's garages, that's chemicals that came off of their shelves, all just floated right on down through people's houses. So if it's possible, when we can, as soon as possible, get the Turnbull Creek Board together where we can help design a plan to get that portion of the creek cleaned out to help the flow for the next storms, because if we don't, we're going to wind up with all that water again. That creek has to work again. So I just asked that we could get the group together. And also USDA-NA, I introduced Randy Hartman, Commissioner Hartman, to them, and Ron and Kyle. There's a guy there who has available funds to also help, as well as equipment that may help. He has a lot of sources that we can use. So the Turnbull Creek, if you do approve us to forward in on that, we can tie him into this. So just to let you know of that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. Donna Aiken. Yes, sir. Come ahead.
My name is Jeremy Bringard. I'm at 916 Locust Street. I just want to reiterate what Matt said. Our pumps have not worked. They have not worked for the 12 years that I've lived there. I had a whole speech prepared here, but it seems like y'all understand that we do have flooding issues. You guys had an opportunity to get a piece of property basically gifted to you, developed, ready to go by a resident. Mr. McGurk did allude to the fact that it was going to be developed by somebody else, not by the government, so it would be faster and most likely cheaper. I don't understand why it was balked upon. Mr. Colodi said that it wouldn't offer any help. Well, I have eight homes flooded on my street right now, which is exactly what the engineer said would help. And now they're all flooded. My house is flooded. My kids and I and my wife slept in our front yard in a tent, looking at all of my stuff in my front yard, ready to be dumped into the landfill. And you guys had the opportunity. And the engineer even said the property is not, there was a concern about cost. The property was $417. That's a beachside property for $417. Developed, ready to go, engineered, everything like that. And you had also mentioned, and I'm not trying to be, you had also mentioned that you had concerns that it was a resident. That resident has done these very projects for the city. So it wasn't just some guy that was going to get out there with a shovel. He's done projects for you guys. So I'm very disappointed that this wasn't something, I mean, I understand, 500-year storm, but for Locust Street, it's not a 500-year storm. We've had nor'easters that have flooded the road. I've had the water all the way up to my doorstep before, and it's not just a 500-year storm. We need to start planning. We spent how much money on that property on Flagler? How much was that? It was $980,000.
Yep.
You know, those type of things I don't think are what we need to be concerned about. We need to be concerned about buying up properties, creating green spaces. You were a big champion of that, I believe. You know, these retention ponds, they don't just have to be ugly retention ponds. We can do things to make them look nice, put benches on them, do what we need to do to make them look and serve a purpose, not buy properties to make bigger intersections. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, go ahead. Oh. Come ahead, then will you, then Lisa. Go ahead.
Donna Hinkle from Under the Stars in New Smyrna, and I know most of you all. But we do need a place. I don't know if the city has a place. We're collecting donations, furniture, clothing. Clothing I can handle at Shriners, the bedding, shoes, socks, things like that, toiletries I can handle at Shriners. But furniture, I was told today, or the other day, Teresa and I both were told, Director of, Teresa, who was that guy? Director of Habitat had a meeting. And we were supposed to be able to drop things off. Well, there was a gentleman around the corner on Magnolia Street that passed away, which I know the family. They called me and said, hey, you can have everything in the house. Well, there was a little old man that needed a lift chair, which I get a lift chair to, sofa, give to another guy that flooded with a sofa. He is on crutches. But I have all this other beautiful furniture that's sitting on my trailer because I have nowhere to put it because Habitat refused to take it today.
Okay.
So is there anywhere in the city that we could use temporarily to put furniture?
I don't know that, it was still your time, so I'll pause
No, I'm
there for
done.
a
That's
second.
all I have to say, 'cause
So I
I
don't know
gotta
that we
go.
have an answer. We have talked about that. I think staff is working on something. We're trying to partner with people that kind of already are on that business, if you will. But so more to come on that. We know it's a need. So we're working on trying to find a spot where we can help or that we can point people to. I know the YMCA was at some point, was functioning as kind of a hub, but I don't want to inundate them either, so.
Well, what's her name?
Good.
Her, you,
Just-
Lisa. Lisa.
No,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Lisa says about the Minerva
The Minerva Center,
West
yeah.
side,
It
possibly?
could be an option. We'll talk it. That's not a city property is the problem.
Somebody could let,
No, I reached out to the owner, Christopher Rao, but I have not heard back from him yet.
Yeah.
It's just we have so many people that want to give today.
Yeah, agreed.
And the houses are in no condition to take anything in.
Yeah,
So we just need a warehouse until it can get straightened out.
yeah,
well, I have a 10 by 20 pool that I'm renting.
yeah. All right, we're working on that. We'll follow up with you. We'll try to get something out to the public.
Maybe one
All
of
right.
the storage places.
Which one?
I'm saying
We're-
maybe
hey,
even like
listen,
all aboard storage.
We're not going to figure this out right here tonight. We're going to work on it. Yes, ma'am, come in.
I'm short. I'm Jackie Twilliger. I live on 1833 North Peninsula on the corner of Peninsula and Surf. We were one of the homes that were flooded. I woke up the next morning after the storm started by my neighbor who was very upset because the grandmother was in the home and the water was rising, and we had to get the neighbors to pick her up and physically bring her into my home. And I don't have my glasses as I wrote, but I'll do the best that I can. The concern the next morning when we were able to evaluate everything, we knew my neighbor home was destroyed, but my basement apartment, which I just refurbished for my family member, had about 2 to 3 feet of water in it. So everything in there, of course, is out on the front, in the front, just like everybody else is in my little neighborhood. The concern was the lift station on Surf Street, whether it was turned off, which I hope it wasn't, or it just malfunctioned. And again, we had all the water issues, and I've listened to everything you guys have talked about. Not only that, but we couldn't get pumps in even when the power came on because there was nowhere to pump the water out. If we would have pumped it out of the apartment, or out of her home, it would have just flowed right back in. So that kept water back into our homes much longer than should have. We finally got the water out. We did take a little drive around the neighborhood. We went to like Central Beach, actually even still some North Beaches where they had the pumps. And the pumps were off because everything was dry. So we couldn't understand why they hadn't moved the pumps to areas that were already dry into places like our own. Since the storm, and since everybody's kind of been on board, we've probably had over 100 trucks draining that lift station. Since the trucks have come, we have demining of the road, where we just had a water break in a main 2 days ago. That got fixed, thank God, but as we were getting all our stuff out, the water was coming back because of the break in the pipe. So concern is for the undermining of that street right there at Peninsula and Surf, going on either direction of Surf. So I'll stop that, but I just want to say a couple things. I know Royce. Thank God for Royce. I'm sorry for what's happened to his family. Cody, I don't even know his last name. God bless him. He was out there. I want to thank you guys for sending all your people out. I want to say thank you to Tammy Dickerson. We went to see her physically on a Saturday morning because we couldn't get anybody out there, and she got the ball rolling. So I want to tell her thank you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Hello.
Jeff Romero, 708 South Cooper Street. So, thank you for all being here, for all the work that staff did on there. I was fortunate to be out of the country when this storm happened. However, the wife was here. She took everything. She did a great job. But as I sit here and listen to what's happened in the past week or so, I remember back to April of this year when we had a meeting about a workshop about $14 million that were given to the city and how we're going to spend it, and the list they were given to you. And then we had a second meeting that was in June, I believe, and it was told about stormwater and how we're going to fix the stormwater and the money was going to go there and how much money came in. But so far, nothing has been told about what's happened to it, how many contracts have gone out, and what has happened to that money, and what process is it into. Is the money here? Has it been contracted out? Is it going to be used? Where's it going to be at? So that's one thing I want to talk about, ask about. Also, preparing for a hurricane. Most of you have not been to a true Category 4 hurricane, or a 3, and haven't prepared enough for it. I know that Jake has, sorry. I know you have too, Andrew. But this was nothing. What you saw today is here, all right? If you were out of power for 2 or 3 weeks, unfortunately you have power here, which can happen, this town will go crazy, all right? Roads are impassable, of course. And part of the things that you see prepared, you gotta prepare above and beyond. Not could be 17 inches, maybe 30 inches, maybe 40. You gotta think about what could happen. Not go, well, you know, this is what we say here, this is what we should do. I noticed some of the ditches when I cleaned it up in my area. I noticed some of the streets were dirty. I noticed that part of the flooding happened because the drains worked, but debris was blocking them. It took a while for it to go down. Like the corner of Cooper and 3rd, when I came home on Friday through down 44, it was flooded. What happened? The drain was clogged. Nobody had been there. Nobody had taken care of it. Eventually, it drained down. So it needs to be more of the city, the money you got, the $14 million you got from the state, from the federal government, to use that for now. You also mentioned that time there that you had a lot of roads that needed working on there. You didn't have enough money for the roads. You've been putting it off for years. Well, it's going to happen again. These roads are going to be really needing a lot of work. So it's, and also, now that the iron is hot, you guys are all talking about the hurricane, what happened here. Here's a news flash. We've got 6 months to act because in June, it starts again. So if you don't start acting now and doing timelines saying we need to have X, Y, and Z done by this time and this date here, we're going to be sitting here in June, July, August, another one. Oh, what happened last year? It's going to happen again. Hopefully it won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Hang on. It's Travis. It's all right. We know his name and address. You can go back. You can go back and watch it. You can go back and watch it. All right.
Hi.
Yes.
Gina Geiselman, 1816 Beacon Street. I was one of the houses that flooded down there. I just wanted to say that since they started that construction on that road and fired the company, we have these big round, I don't know what they are, storm drain. I don't know, they go under the ground. Why are they there?
I'm having trouble hearing you talking on the mic. Why are they there? I heard that part.
Why are they still there? The company is not going to finish the job on Beacon Street.
Yeah, I don't know on that project specifically. I'll have to
Okay.
have staff follow up with you on
Okay, I
that.
just wanted
We're
to
going
bring
to
that-
give, we're
I
going to
wanted
get
to
a
bring
status
that to your
update for all of you.
attention.
Yeah.
And then 408 Florida Avenue is my son's house. It flooded, and the storm drain there, it's not working properly. It has not been working properly before the storm. And I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Others? Lillian?
Lillian Conrad, 2700 North Peninsula. It was very difficult to sit here tonight, as I'm sure it is for you as well, and listen to all the negativity related to the flooding that we've had. It is horrific, and it is horrible for everybody. I have reached out already to the CEO of the utilities, NSB Utilities, can't say it right yet myself, and the Director of Engineering, and requested a meeting with them tomorrow to follow up on what we've heard tonight. 2 of my daughters live on Locust Street. Fortunately, they're at the higher end of the street, but they and I are well aware of the long-term problems there's been with that lift station. And it has been a subject of conversation between me and the Utilities Commission. It also might be good to have engineering of the city look at paving that road. I'm sure that the debris that comes off of that road non-paved isn't a help to the drainage in the area. Secondly, Beacon Street, well aware of the problems. I drive down that street very often, and I know the Utilities Commission has worked very hard on that project, and they have a plan for it. I am sure that the CEO, Mr. Bunch, will be in contact with Khaled later. He's coming back off of leave today, so he should be in the office tomorrow. That's my first comment. Secondly, I want to thank the staff for what they've done for the Canal Street Historic Group and for the preservation of our community. I'm particularly interested in Chapter 50 and hope that you all will have an opportunity to at least look at the agenda and the notes from the preservation meeting, excuse me, tomorrow evening, 5:30 in the city chambers. And lastly, yes, there is a Santa. I'm sorry I was that emotional about the message that I sent, but I believe the traditions of this community are what make us unique. Rob, we've talked. I know the city is wanting to do everything they possibly can for the community, particularly to help us forget some of the things that we've gone through in the last 3.5 years. Thank you again for all you do.
Thanks, Lily. We all agree with you on those traditions. I know Rob's on it. Any others for public participation? Are you all coming forward or are you leaving? They're leaving. I'm seeing no others coming forward. We're going to close public participation. Thank you all. I wish I could wave a wand and make it all go away, but we're gonna keep working on it. I did want to say on the CARES Act, stormwater projects are not overnight projects. It is in progress. We're working towards it. We've identified 2 areas. We have received the money, and that's in motion, but it takes time. Islesboro took, what, a couple of years to...
Both projects, Mayor, the Historic West Side and the Coben Park stormwater, they're both under design. And I think the Historic West Side, I think it's close to 100%, and Kyle is here, he will... but both of them are through the ARPA fund. We are moving forward with the design, so hopefully we should be coming back to you soon with the 100%.
Yeah, so we are, that is marching forward, but it's gonna, I mean, that may not be ready before, I mean, by the time you actually do the construction, we may be through another couple of seasons. I mean, those projects take insanely long time for numerous reasons, all valid, not because staff's just, chilling out, sipping pina coladas over there, so.
But we did have 2 public meetings on each project, so every time we have like 30%, 60%, 90%, so probably I'm thinking soon we will have a public meeting for the 100%.
All right, thank you all. Okay, so consent agenda, gentlemen, we have 13 items. There were 14. Staff requested 1 be removed as item 6C. By the way, I'm okay with that being pulled this time, but I would like to get that resolved before next time. I wouldn't support that going any further than that, so just for the record. So 13 items. Anybody wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Commissioner Colodi?
No.
Commissioners, do you have any, Commissioner Sacks?
It's a pleasure not to pull anything.
Commissioner Vice Mayor? Commissioner Hartman?
No, just to comment on 6K, there's a typo on the PDF file. It was mislabeled, but it's the right file, it's just mislabeled.
Okay, got it. And I have nothing to pull. Also, the only thing I wanted to call out, just for the future commission, not my problem, but 6B, the city commission dates, the budget workshops caught my eye. I like that we do that. I like to be able to say when we get to the very end and we have folks show up and say, oh, you're lacking transparency in your budget process. We can say, hey, which department did you want to hear from? They all stood before us. They all talked to us. But if staff and commission feel, it's probably something we should check and say, do we need that much time? Could we condense it? Could we reduce it down to 3 workshops instead of 6 or whatever the number is? So just I brought it in with me. I'm giving you a chance on the way out to say, is it still relevant? Is it still valuable?
Mayor, it's like a wheel of fortune. We used to have 1 meeting, and then they said, well, that's not enough. So then we have 6 meetings. Well, that's too much.
It's like what is the nursery rhyme? It's the bears, right? The three bears or something. Goldilocks. That's it. All right. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda to approve 13 items?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second the motion.
Travis, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor On?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, first item up, 7A, is a fee waiver request for a variance. So 7A and 7B are linked. So we have an appeal of a variance, but first we're actually hearing the fee waiver request on that variance. So I think I think we should hear the fee waiver and then move on to the other, but whatever the commission's pleasure is. So, Jake, do you have a report on this?
Yes, I do. Trying to pull up this photo here real quick so you can see what we're looking at here. Okay, we have an appeal of a waiver fee, $500 value. As noted, this is the first of 2 hearings related to a variance case at 905 Scully Avenue, which is 1/2 of a duplex. The second case we'll hear is the actual appeal of the variance, which was considered by P&Z on August 1st of this year. The property owner, Sharon Whitley, has signed a promissory note to pay the full amount of the waiver fee if the request is not approved. The variance itself was actually an after-the-fact variance to allow a driveway to be 28.2 feet wide on a 37.4 foot wide lot, or 75.4% of the parcel. So basically, you're getting a variance of 35.4%. There's also a variance included to allow the driveway to be at the property line. The P&Z board denied the variance request. Like I said, the appeal is it's a $500 value. you have any questions beyond that or into the variance at all, or you just want to
Yeah, I mean,
talk
gentlemen,
on both first before you go into it, or?
what are your thoughts? I can go either way. Let's hear it. Let's kind of hear, let's hear the whole case, and then, because I'd like to hear that, and then we'll make a decision on A and then B. But let's just kind of hear the whole case for now.
Okay. Ms. Whitley had hired a contractor to widen her driveway. So it would be easier for her to get in and out of her vehicle, as she often has to use a wheelchair to get around. She did not know that the contractor did not get a permit, and the work was performed without a permit. Like I said, the lot is 37.4 feet wide. The LDR, the Land Development Regulations, allow up to 40% of a lot to be covered with driveway. So if you look at it just as what would be allowed per code, she's a little under 15 feet. She's at 14.96. The driveway was built, as you can see in the upper half of that picture, at 16, which basically is pretty standard for a two-car garage. And then with the addition, it's taking it up now, it's at 28.2 feet wide, which basically, if you think of an ADA space where you have a 12-foot parking, a 5-foot aisle, and your standard parking lot space is 10. So she's basically created kind of like a handicap space with an aisle and another space next to her. She did get letters of support from two of her neighbors across the street, and she also did get a recommendation to deny from her adjoining property owner. As far as the criteria go, they're much more based on the land itself. They're not really going into people's personal situations, but her situation is certainly special and unique, but it's more of a personal situation. So while technically she might not meet all of the criteria, but like I said, they're more for the land and not the person's situation. So if you have any questions for me, basically I left it very open-ended with my recommendation, because it's not really a land development regulation that we're kind of trying to vary from. Do they meet the criteria or not? It's a personal situation type of variance
So this
request.
is a quasi-judicial hearing where we have criteria we apply to the facts. So if you want to just run through that criteria real quick for them, what
Sure.
the standards are.
Yep. Special circumstances exist which are peculiar to the subject property owner's land, structure, or building, and not generally apply to neighbor's land, structures, or buildings in the same district or vicinity. Like I mentioned, there's nothing really special about the land itself. My point would be that her situation is more peculiar. B, strict application of the provisions of this LDR would deprive the subject property owner of reasonable rights commonly applicable to other properties in the same district, or may preclude a benefit to the community in general. Like I said, her situation is unique. While the driveway itself isn't really a benefit to the community, it is definitely beneficial to the property owner. Special circumstances and conditions exist do not result from the direct or indirect actions of the present property owner or past property owner. This criterion shall not be satisfied if the present or past property owner created, to any degree, the hardship that is the subject of the variance request. The special circumstances and conditions are a hardship. That is not the fault of a previous owner. It's her personal situation. Granting of the variance will not cause detriment to the public welfare or impair the purposes and intent of the LDR. I would say that the driveways are set back from the property line to prevent water from not running onto a neighbor's property. Given that the driveway is built to the property line, this really is not technically possible, but I do believe it does slope away from the neighbor's property. And then the final criteria of the 5, granting of the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege that is denied by this LDR to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. And like I said, again, given the property owner's special circumstances, granting the variance could be construed as not constituting a special privilege. Those are the criteria that apply. If you have any questions for me, I'm here, and the applicant is here as well.
All right, so gentlemen, we've kind of heard the case. Let's do this. We've got 2 items. We've got 7A, 7B. So 7B is quasi-judicial public hearing. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. Let's get 7A out of the way. We heard the report. So the request is for a 7A specifically is the fee waiver request, which is basically a $500 fee waiver request. If waived, she doesn't pay. If not waived, if this is denied, then the agreement is that she will pay regardless of the outcome of 7B, the fee, the $500 appeal application fee will be in place. So do I have a motion on item 7A?
Make a motion to approve the waiver of the fee.
Have a
Second the motion.
Discussion, Commissioner Cludier?
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Assuming that the homeowner followed the normal procedures, they would have had to get a couple permits and that type of thing, correct?
Well, code enforcement caught this because it was too wide. She applied for it after the fact and was denied because it's too wide, which is how we're here for the variance request today.
What fees were charged for that?
She would have gotten a application fee from the building department, but I don't know the fee that goes along with a permit for a driveway. Like $100 or something, maybe. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
But if we're going to talk about it, to that point, she paid for the building permit. It expired, and she paid again. So she's paid twice for a building permit on a non-compliant issue. We should have never issued her a building permit to begin with. If code enforcement caught it, it needed a variance. The permit should have never been issued from the building department to begin with until she cleared up the variance issue. That's why my motion for waiving the request for the variance fee, I made it that way. Because she's already paid for something she should have never paid for in the beginning. It should have got stopped then. If code enforcement found that it was in fact an infraction and it needed a variance, she was out of compliance, that's where we should have settled it at that point before we paid for the permit and then repaid for a permit that had expired subsequently to that. That's the reason my motion.
Yeah, that's why I asked if she did pay fees along the way.
She thought her contractor got a permit, which he did not initially.
Yeah, well, whatever. She paid fees along the way, so
Yeah.
I would be willing to waive the fee in this instance, which is against my normal way of looking at things.
Yeah. All right, we had a motion and a second. Not hearing any other strong debate.
Yeah,
Sorry, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
So we're talking about the fee for a variance request. We're not talking about a building permit fee. She was charged a building permit fee, which if she was approved for the variance, she would have paid anyway, right? But we're not talking, so I'm just trying to understand the dialogue back and forth. Assuming everything was done as it should have been done, she would have been required to pay the variance fee, which is what we're hearing right now.
And then once she got the variance, she would have been charged and approved, she would have had to pay for a building permit.
Right.
But we charged her for the building permit, not once, but twice, before we settled the issue whether or not.
But that doesn't
she grants
necessarily
the
have
variance.
anything to, building permit's separate from the variance fee.
I agree with that. But that is the reason why I made the motion to waive the variance fee.
How
That's
about-
it, just the
how-
variance
how-
fee.
How about how about a motion to reimburse her one of the permit fees? Okay.
It's gonna wash out.
Yeah.
What is the, okay,
So, she's been down here twice.
Yeah.
Time and travel, the whole 9 yards, so.
okay. Thank you. It's clarified, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is a motion just on the fee waiver, and then we're gonna hear the actual item in a moment. That's a public hearing as well, and the applicant will have a chance to speak as well at that time. So we had a motion and a second on this. Travis, if you would call the roll, please.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Fee is waived. 7B, you've already provided your report. Do we have any questions for Jake on his report from the commission? Seeing none, hang out. We may come back to you. We'll hear from the applicant if you'd like to speak. Come ahead. Sure.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here a second time and speak. First of all, I'd like to implicitly, from my heart, thank Commissioner Sacks, Commissioner Hartman, and Commissioner Colodi, and especially Khalid. They've gone the extra mile for me, taken a lot of phone calls, jumped through a lot of hoops for me to support me on this as best they could. The rules are the rules and the laws are the laws, and I understand that. First of all, as a public participant, just before I get into the driveway, I live in Zone 2 across the street from the beach at 30th. I've lived here for 10 years. I've evacuated for every hurricane because I'm a single person and I've always been fearful. I stayed this time, and I wish I wouldn't have. It was absolutely terrifying. Myself and my service animal laid with blankets and pillows and a weather radio and lanterns and water in the tub in the middle of the house to protect ourselves with the mattress laying against the vanity just in case we needed to pull it over us. I was absolutely terrified. We had 90-mile-an-hour wind gust. The rain didn't stop for 26 hours. As you can see, the way the house is positioned, my front door sits way back. And so the garage in the front, literally coming off of that garage, was like a waterfall for 26 hours. I took on about 6 inches of water in my garage. None came in the house, a little bit in the kitchen, but mostly in the garage. My fence went down. We had 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts coming off of the ocean. And the way I'm positioned with the church and then the condos, that wind just kept driving us. I watched my neighbors, scrub oak, literally bend and sway, and I just knew it was coming down. I had a lot of debris, but nonetheless, in the big scheme of things, compared to others, my friends that live in Pine Island that literally lost everything, I'm grateful for losing a fence, a tree, and water in my garage. We pushed water out. We went to Home Depot and bought fans and those blowers to dry it out. And as fast as we pushed it out, because the ground was so saturated, it came right back. It took a couple days, but it's finally gone. Anything that I lost in cardboard, I didn't need it anyway. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful that I didn't lose everything like so many. I want to thank our public officials for everything you all did to rally the troops, to make things happen for us. I know South Beach has always had an issue on A1A with flooding, and it did, and we were stuck for 3 days because the water did not recede and cars couldn't go through. And I think Khalid got involved back some months ago with getting engineers or crews out there, and they found that the drainage lines under the street were full of sand and it couldn't push the water. That's why we kept flooding. It's going to need it again.
Yeah. I sincerely hate to cut you off, and I'm passionate right there with you. I do want to keep this focused on this item. We've kind of moved past that. We're now talking about this item.
Okay, let's stay focused on this.
Thank you.
I'm here to plead for the city, with the city, for an exception and approval to keep that driveway extension. It serves as a safe area, a safe way because of the way this place is designed. If there's more than one car in my driveway, I can't get to my front door. And I've got a picture here, and this was nothing more than a simple rainstorm. That section that you see on top that had the mulch before literally dropped and sank 4 inches, so there was a drop-off, and filled with water every rainstorm. It created bugs, an unsafe hazard, and at times, because of a medical condition and some surgeries I've had to maneuver in a wheelchair to get to my front door, and literally the wheels fell off into that. And so I made the decision, and this has been going on for a year. So my request from my heart, please understand, this is need, not greed, as someone once told me. I don't have more than one fancy vehicle. I don't have a boat. That's not what this is about. This is about safety for ingress and egress. And I know it's over the required footage, but the extension is on only my property. There is no impede to neighbors in any way, shape, or form. I've got multiple letters on file from neighbors supporting it, because it was an eyesore. It literally was a lake. It was a nasty lake. And sometimes the New Smyrna Beach Utility Commission, the guys couldn't even get down, when it would flood, couldn't even get down to read the meter. So it was problematic. I took the initiative to do this, and I actually hired somebody that used to work for the city to pour the concrete. I was under the impression that he had pulled the permit. And I've asked for forgiveness for that, and I've made that right with Gary by paying the fines and fees and all of the above in Gary's office. Given the circumstances of the damages to the hurricane and not having flood insurance and some of the losses, I have a financial hardship. If you all don't agree and allow me to keep that driveway extension for medical safety and amongst other things, accessing my home, I won't be able to, I don't have the funds to remove it. I've had a quote of about $2,200 for removal and then to bring back in 5 inches of fill dirt to fill it. I just don't have the money to do it, and I need it, and I don't want to leave my home. And I have shared with Jake, the reality of it is I would have to, if I don't get the approval to keep it, I'm going to have to sell my home and leave New Smyrna. And I've been here for 10 years. I love New Smyrna. But the reality of it is I have to have it. And it doesn't create a problem for anyone. No one, I share no easements, I share nothing. Nobody ever goes on that but me. That's it.
Okay.
So.
Question for the applicant.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dillon.
Hello, good evening. So I'm going to come at this from a practical standpoint, not necessarily
I'm sorry, part of my disabilities I don't hear out of my left ear, so I'm going to lean in.
Sure.
Do whatever you got to do.
I'm going to come at this from a practical standpoint. I see what you did just from the picture. You basically took any pervious ground and made it impervious. Or the other way around. I understand that you're in a wheelchair. My question to you is, if you parked before you did this additional concrete, what prevented you from parking on the left side of your driveway and, say, for example, adding a 5-foot section about where that little palm is, filling in that area, which would give you roughly, let's just say, 5 feet additional space all the way up to your beginning of your walkway? What created the desire or the need to pave every inch of it all the way down to the street if you're just trying to access your home, which if you parked on the left side of your driveway and brought it down from your beginning of your walkway, let's say 5 feet out, what was the need for creating the entire,
To going down to the curb.
all the way down to the curb?
Yeah, that was something the contractor did. I didn't design it. I just said I need a more efficient space to exit my vehicle and get around that corner to make that corner to get down to the front door. And honestly, I don't have an answer for that, sir. Commissioner McCurk, I don't have an answer because that was led up to him. And the day they poured, they had the engineers from the Utility Commission out there at the same time, which is why I thought he had pulled the permit, because you got engineers and maintenance guys from Utility Commission raising the meter to bring it up. I thought everything was copacetic.
Yeah. I understand. I understand that.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. That was my question. You answered it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Clutie? Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. We'll bring you back up if we find more questions. It's a public hearing. Any members of the public here to comment on this item only? Yes, ma'am. Come ahead. This is just about the actual variance appeal. So the financial waiver's already been done. This is the actual variance appeal. So, yep, this is your chance. Okay. Yep.
Sorry, I was late.
That's okay.
Cindy Snuzak, 512 Yukon
Okay.
Street. Is this on? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I certainly understand mobility issues. I have some of my own. As you consider whether or not you want to grant this variance, I ask you to keep in mind not only the impervious percentages with the driveway now going to the property line, but the total impervious percentages of the lot, which when I asked 2 meetings ago at P&Z, they didn't know what that was. I believe Jake perhaps estimated it was well above 90% impervious. So, given the flooding theme of the evening, that might be something to consider. I totally understand the financial hardship part of this. Had a request for a variance been requested, there were multiple ways not to do this. But if you find it in your heart that you just feel you have to approve a variance, then I ask you to please consider to make that contingent upon sale of this property, that any variance not be allowed to live beyond either X period of years or at the sale of this property. It needs to come back into compliance, because with the lack of drainage and the neighbor's complaint that this change is now flooding their property, I think you kind of have to weigh both things. And it's ironic, I guess, that at least a suggestion that former city contractors or employees were involved in this makes it a little more interesting. But I think you have the ability not only to overrule your zoning people, which I never like to see, but to have a contingency that makes it very clear that this is not an in perpetuity variance. Even if sold to a family member, I think that would be important and would give some protection at least to the city in general. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good thoughts. Any others for this item only? Yes, Jess, come ahead. Hang on. Wait till you get to the mic so that everybody can hear you.
708 South Cooper Street, you know that. I just heard about it today. I walked in today, so I don't know much about it, but from hearing about it, I think Commissioner Harvey had a good point, though. If you go to the city to get a permit, you as a customer are assuming, unfortunately, everything's good. So if somebody's giving you a permit to build this block here, somebody should say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do this. But they didn't tell her that.
She didn't pull a permit. She came later to get the permit after this was done. I don't know if that matters to you or not, but.
Well, that does matter, but
Okay.
like you said, the permit was pulled, it was granted, wasn't it, eventually? Wasn't it granted?
Yeah, but it was an after-the-fact event. It was after a code enforcement action and after
So,
the fact.
right, so the permit was issued. At that point in time, it should have said, you can't do this, you gotta do it, in my opinion. Now that it's after the fact, now here we are, whatever time frame it is now, to this point here. So, it already happened. I understand the permeous, the issue with the drainage and that kind of stuff, and I'm for that. But to go back now because code enforcement found it, and then a permit was pulled and issued, at that point in time, it should have been handled, not come to you guys now, in my opinion.
Okay. Any others for this item only? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Jake, do you know that total percentage? Did you capture that between the two meetings or no?
Because the driveway is about 75% of the front yard. Your front yard basically is about 25% impervious, and then the rest of the yard kept it just below that 60% threshold that you're allowed for that zoning district, factoring in the side and or back.
Okay, so overall, kind of right.
Overall is good, but obviously the front's a little.
Yeah, the front's way out of whack, but overall is good.
Jake, I got a quick
Hang on,
question for you.
more questions for you.
When I make a handicap space, any legal required handicap space, what is the section that is required? How wide, do you know off the top of your head how wide that extra section?
There's 12, and then when they do the vans with when you get out and you have the extra space, that goes up to 17 feet. It's
Total.
like the max you can get for a handicap space.
So a typical parking space is 10 feet wide?
Yeah, like say your
And
one
then
you'd
you
have on
have-
Publix would be 10, something like
Yeah,
that, you know, but if you're downtown, this Smyrna, it's like 9, but standard
Yeah.
is 10. The
Right.
largest handicap space, ADA, when you factor in the aisle for vehicle, a little scooter getting off, whatever, it can be up to 17.
Okay, thank you.
So.
And how wide is that driveway total?
28.
No, before it was, how wide before?
It was 16 originally.
16 originally, okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Gallotti.
Now that you sat back down,
Hey, hang on.
Exactly what variances would we be granting?
You would be granting a variance to allow the driveway to be 28 feet, 4 inches wide, and for, because typically a driveway is supposed to be 3 feet off the property line. So it's two variances. One to allow a driveway to be 0 feet, 0 inches from the side property line, and for the driveway to be 28.2 feet wide.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we heard from the public, we heard from the applicant. If you have a brief closing comment, but we really need to make a decision, so I'll grant you a brief closing comment.
Very, very brief. I wanted to share that these are 4 properties. I don't
If
have
you,
it put
if you'll,
up there.
if you'll give him to Travis, he'll pass them down to us. That'll be the most efficient way to do it.
In walking distance of my property, and their entire properties are concrete
Okay, thank you.
for boats and other things.
Yeah, got it. All right, thank you. That's it. Okay, gentlemen, we've had discussion, we've heard from the applicant. We've seen some last minute stuff here. What's the commission's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Yes.
like to make a motion to grant the variance, 822.
So grant, motion to approve the variances, I guess multiple variances as presented by staff. Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Do I have any other motions on this item? I think we need to give it a yes or a no. Right, Carrie? I'm coming to you, I see. I just want to make sure. We can't just do nothing. We need to eventually get a motion on the board that we vote up or down, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, can I second the motion then?
Well, hang on. That motion failed for lack of a second. Let me come to Commissioner Colodi, and then we may come back to that. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we do grant a variance, and the wording can be worked out. But what I would like to see is the driveway be removed at any location where it's within 3 feet of the property line.
So basically, that would be granting the one of the two variances, because I think that was the second of the two variances.
I think so.
Yeah,
That's why I would like the staff to work on that.
okay.
Basically, there is a personal situation that really shouldn't affect the need to grant the variance or not, because the grants will run with the property and not with the person. I think that there was some difficulties that might have been caused due to the construction, and maybe we saw it a little too late. But I would like to provide a little additional width to the driveway, but not to the property line, because there has been testimony, there may be drainage problems out there now, and we certainly don't want to have pavement to the property line.
Okay. So for clarity, I'm going to ask you to restate, you said a lot, and you kind of said, I want to make a motion, but I want, restate that motion so we have clarity on that motion.
I make a motion to allow the driveway to remain as constructed, except any portion of the driveway that lies within 3 feet of the common boundary line.
So that would be removed. Okay, we had a motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Discussion.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor. I was going to give you a chance.
Yeah, no, I just. So I understand the motion, we're going to just have her remove 3 feet of the new part of the concrete from the sidewalk up. We're gonna have 3 feet of pervious space.
Yes.
So my question is, so I think that's a great start, but my question is, why don't we move that up to a reasonable amount where she can access the wheelchair to her stoop, but give us a little more pervious space, especially consider, why just the 3 feet? I don't think she needs almost the entire length of the driveway to get a wheelchair out.
I don't think so either. However, the way the variances can be asked for and granted, this removes 1/2 of the variances. You got to, what's better, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet? What's
Yeah, I would
better
like
is-
to
what's
remove as
better
much
is
of
to
the
have-
concrete as possible to allow her to accommodate the wheelchair, but not give her more. I mean, the irony is, under the circumstance of all the flooding we're having, and we're talking about,
Yes.
she's literally created her entire front yard all impervious. So I'd like to reduce that impervious concrete to only to what she needs to access the wheelchair, to get access to her front door. So, and I don't necessarily know exactly where that is, but, at least at 3 feet, I mean, I'll take that, but I'd like to move that up some. But,
Okay. So I'll share my comments real quick so y'all know where I'm at as we figure out what motion may go through. We have a motion in a second, just for the record, but, I think I agree with everything Vice Mayor said. I mean, this is tough, because we all have hearts, right? We're not cruel humans. But I don't get this. Like, I look up there and I see all that landscaping. I thought the trouble was trying to make the corner, and that situation wasn't improved. Like, we still have a landscape barrier there, so I don't, this just isn't stacking up for me. So I feel terrible. I get the cost of removal. I'd written down a note that was kind of along the line with the one public comment of could we put some time on it? Could we say this has got to be resolved, but maybe it's not today. Maybe it's you got 5 years to resolve this, but then we put a burden on staff to follow up and, we did have the neighbor, I think the neighbor that registered the complaint, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll put it that way, is the one next door. And they were saying, I think from P&Z notes, they were saying that they were, that this was impacting their property, that it causing runoff and other things to their property. So I have sympathy for both parties in this case. And there's a reason we have rules, and you work with reputable contractors that are licensed and insured, and they don't do this kind of stuff, and they do pull permits. So I don't know that, I might could support the motion that was made, but I don't know that I will, if I'm honest. I'm kind of going where you're at, just saying, look, I don't get where this solved the problem, because I still see a wall of landscaping between.
and that's exactly, that is the irony and crazy thing about this. If it was to get access, it looks like she just created another parking space, because she has to get out and use the new section of concrete so she can access her home, but then she has to actually go back onto the old concrete to go around and get onto the path.
Yeah.
2 and 2 is not adding up to 4 here for me, so.
All right, so we had him, go ahead.
So, a question to Carrie is, the variance will go in perpetuity, correct? Stays
It
with the
will
pro-
run with the land.
All right.
Is that negotiable? Like, could we attach that, or are we just going way out in left field there?
It's recorded in the public records and it runs with the land.
So we couldn't put something on it to say, triggered upon a sale of property, it reverts back, nothing like that? We're way out of, we're really pushing,
Yeah,
all the
you're-
attorneys are shaking their heads. So, all right. Okay. So we had a motion. The motion for clarity was to approve, I think it was to approve one variance, but I want to be very clear. It was to approve the variance of leaving the majority of the concrete, but removing anything that was within 3 feet of the common boundary line. I think if I stated that correctly.
That's correct.
All right, we had a motion, we had a second. Travis, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks,
No.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
No.
Mayor On.
I'm a no, sorry.
Thank you.
Do we have any other motions on this item?
Yeah,
Any
I'll
other
make a
discussion?
motion.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion that she has to, how do I say this? So, I'm gonna make a motion that, I don't have the right elevations or the drawings, but what I wanna do is, from the,
I think I have the survey on here somewhere.
so her walkway,
I don't have the survey said.
All right, it's okay. So let me do this. Her walkway.
Pull that picture back up if you would.
Pull the aerial.
Yeah, pull the picture you had. Yeah, it's fine. The one you had is fine.
Okay.
So what I want to do is she can add on the original driveway. She can, I'll grant her 7 feet additional concrete,
So a 23-foot wide driveway.
23-foot wide driveway wide, but where her walkway
To push it, that
intersects,
kind of-
she can fill in 10 feet from the end of the walkway down. So she's going to basically cut out a section that comes down and then takes up half of the yard that she'll have to create as pervious. So this way, she's given the space she needs to be able to pull up, access the additional 10 feet or so on the left, and then go straight up into her walkway. So is
23 feet wide, straight back to the door.
23 feet wide, straight back to the door, yes. And then anything else she's going to need to remove and go back to having pervious. And that way she has the necessary amount to accommodate her needs for a wheelchair and her means to be able to access her door and her property. That's my intent, without taking up the entire piece of property impervious.
All right.
Is that clear enough on my motion?
Yeah, the rest
Oh, wait,
would
that was all motion?
be pervious.
I'm gonna have you
You like
restate
that
it.
one,
I'm gonna have you restate it. I lost you somewhere in the middle of it. No, I followed you, but I want to,
Yeah.
let's
So
crisp it up.
what we're going to do is I'm going to allow a 23-foot wide driveway. That's going to extend upward to her original walkway. And that total additional concrete, new concrete from the beginning part of her walkway down towards the street is going to be 10 feet. So it's going to be a total of 23 feet wide, and I don't know the specific measurements of what that 10 feet added onto the bottom of her walkway.
So 23 feet wide, but only 10 feet from the existing walkway.
Exactly,
So a lot
existing
of
10
this-
feet.
A lot of
Now-
this, hang on.
Now, I'm willing to adjust that if someone can give me a number that is, whether it's 11 feet, 12 feet, but I want to accommodate her problem with accessing her home with the wheelchair without creating the entire property as impervious.
Okay. So again, I think there was a motion.
If that
in there
section,
somewhere.
Commissioner
Hang-
McCurk, down at the bottom.
Hang on. We're in the middle, we've already had all that, so if we want to hear from you, I'll call you back up for right now. He was in the middle of a motion. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be whatever, it's just we got to keep decorum here. So, you made a motion, I think I understood it. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second to that motion. Go ahead.
So I'm confused with, because Commissioner Clody's, she's currently at 28 feet. He was going to down to 25, and you're going to move her down to 23.
No, he would, well.
Yeah.
And then.
But back off the
from
road as well.
From the curb back, are you counting that as sidewalk, or is that part of the driveway that you want removed also? Even though there are no sidewalks, sometimes people put sidewalks in. I think it needs to go back, she needs to come back with a drawing that's compliant and go through the planning,
Took the words out of my mouth. So
go back through the variance process.
I don't want to support any of this tonight. It's way too chaotic. If the
I don't want to sit
commission's.
here and design her
Yeah,
driveway.
that's what I'm saying.
for-
We're not,
You know.
I'm not going to
that's
support
not
anything, so.
Our job, it's not staff's job.
100%. I
So-
thoroughly agree with that.
I will remove my motion.
Okay,
I'll remove my second.
all right. So if the applicant, just speaking for me, if the applicant would like to work with staff and try to take a stab we are willing to work with it, but this is too much, is my opinion. It's what I'm thinking I'm hearing from my colleagues. We've waived the fee. I don't know that we would need to charge another fee to come back. Maybe there's another waiver that has to come back with it, but I think you've heard some of the feedback, Jake, from us. If she's can work with you all, try to design something that accommodates, but we're not gonna pave entire front yards. So, and I see the photos we've got here. We'll have to look at that. So, all right, that item is, go ahead.
The only other comment is that if we could waive any code enforcement action for 90 days or a period of time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could send the message to staff that commission strongly recommends the code enforcement board stay any active code enforcement case till such time that applicant has worked with staff on a modified application
All
request.
right. Any objections to having staff do that, giving that direction to staff? I see none. So, yeah, let's consider that message sent. All right, item 7C, discussion regarding the benefit package for future elected officials. Heather.
Good evening. So I'm here this evening. We need to discuss for our future elected officials the benefit package that'll be offered. So I presented some information to begin. Currently, we have no formal recommendation or guidance on what the benefits that are offered to our commission staff is. So we wanted to get that put into place. To give you some background, we do have an ordinance that solidifies our salaries but not our benefits. So we want to make sure that we get that put into play. Currently, our elected officials receive their medical, dental, and vision benefits at 100% paid family for the entire family plan. They also are enrolled in the FRS. They have a $25,000 life insurance policy, and there is no stipend for elected officials who do not elect to participate in any of our benefits. Currently, our employees receive 100% of the employee-only premiums paid and 50% of their dependent premiums paid for that same medical, dental, and vision. They also receive 8% of their base salary into a 401A plan for retirement with the newly added 2% match for them this year. And then their life insurance policy is 1 times their annual salary. They also are provided with short-term, and some of our employees are provided with long-term disability insurance policies. I surveyed the other cities in the county. 10 cities responded, and everything, it varies greatly across all of the cities. So there was no clear direction on this is what everybody else does. So I just gathered some information for you. For medical, we have 6 cities that do offer it. 5 of them offer the employee-only premium, which is 100% paid, or the same that their employees get. I know a couple of the cities do have their employees pay small portions for their medical insurance. Only 1 of our local cities offers a stipend to their elected officials who do not elect benefits, and that's South Daytona. Under dental, we have 5 who offer dental insurance to their elected officials. 3 of them pay 100% of the employee only, and 1 pays 50% of the employee only. Vision, and there's only two cities total that offer vision insurance to their elected officials. Besides us, the other one offers 100% of the employee only. Under life insurance, 6 of them offer the life insurance policy to elected officials. 2 of them offer it at 1 times the annual salary, and then it varies anywhere from a $50,000 policy down to a $15,000 policy for the others. Under retirement, our 5 of our cities offer some retirement plan. 3 of the cities offer FRS. 2 of them offer a 401 or a 457 contribution. So that's the landscape of what we have in the other cities in Volusia County that did respond. I'm here tonight to let you guys discuss and get your direction on what we will offer going forward to all of our elected officials.
Thank you, Heather. I'll kick it off real quick, and then we'll come down the line. Hopefully this won't take too long. We'll either do something or not. So this came up as I'm walking out. It's always kind of bothered me that, I don't know what everyone's elected up here, but I assume some people walk into this and they already have healthcare taken care of. And I assume in other cases, healthcare is a major. I mean, for me, it was a major benefit. of this position, one of the few major benefits of this position. To me, this was about just trying to level the playing field. So I made a call, started talking to staff. Carrie's like, hey, we're actually already looking at that because there was some concern because there were the benefits that are currently offered just as common practice, not that started with this commission that's been going on since who knows when it started, but it was never quite codified. So I think staff had already looked at it. I said, well, great, can I just tack on to that and just challenge the commission and ask this question of, let's codify what we're doing. I'm not trying to make any radical changes to anything because I think it's about where it should be, frankly. But could we offer this notion of, which is very common in the business place, this notion of if you don't sign up for this health benefit, there's a stipend that's offered in lieu of that. It can even be slightly discounted. I mean, if the health value is X, it could be a little bit less than that. It certainly should be a little bit less to make up for the tax implications. I'll let you figure out the math on that. So that was the part of this. So to me, we definitely need to codify that package. I think staff would like it to be codified that this is, in addition to compensation, which is codified, this is exactly how elected officials are handled. And then my ask is, could we have staff bring us a proposal that included a line item or some equivalency for a stipend if health insurance isn't adopted? And I have to guess, I got 2 former firefighters up here, I have to guess some of y'all, this would have been nice to have had during your term, or could be nice to have the rest of your term. It wouldn't have impacted me. I'd have taken the health option. So anyway, just that's the item on the table for discussion. We're not actually deciding it tonight. We're just giving staff direction. They're going to bring it back as a resolution at our next meeting. So with that, Commissioner Hartman, we'll start that
I
way.
had a question about the very last column says all of this documented by ordinance or resolution. It is in the charter, though, isn't it, that we follow the ordinance?
So the charter says that
But not every piece of this, just the salary part of it.
it just says the salary will be
Okay.
established by ordinance, and then in chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances is where the salary says it's the mayor's 75%
Right.
of the county
Yep.
and 50% for the commissioners.
Okay. So I'm flexible with all this. I certainly like the stipend idea, but I think it should be, we should look at every employee, all across the board. I think I mentioned this to you earlier, or maybe even, to your predecessor, that, giving stipends for not taking health insurance in the long run actually saves you money in the long run. It takes some people off of your health risk and things like that, that aren't necessarily. The FRS is a pain for me. So if we don't have it for anybody else, I think move the commission to whatever the rest of the general employees have. It's just another account somewhere where I can't touch, and it's a pain. It's confusing because if originally, you're in a defined benefit or and then the defined, it's just a mess. So I think whatever the general employees are doing is certainly fine with me. Other than that, I'm happy with whatever you guys decide.
I'm going to keep coming. I just one point on that. Colin and I talked about it. I think with the employees, I think it's a bigger conversation, and because we've talked about this at some other employers, bigger, 2,000 employees wide. There are trade-offs because people, this whole behavioral economic study, right? So all of a sudden they incentivize cash, but then their overall health and welfare declines, and they actually are not as good of employees. They're not taking care of themselves in a way that they would if that wasn't incentivized. So that's a different situation when I don't like to treat general employees different than the elected officials. I'm not a big believer in that, but
They would have to prove that they're insured by somebody.
Yeah, I guess that would be the notion.
I mean, that's the way it was done in where I worked before, was you had to show proof of insurance through another.
Yeah, like I'm on
company
my
or
wife's plan, et cetera.
Right.
I think a previous employer did something very similar. If you could codify, then you didn't.
If your wife was working for the school board,
Yeah.
You could take one or the other. You didn't necessarily.
Because we had people that worked for Halifax, and their plan was better than Riddle's, and so they would say, "Hey, can I?" But usually they just negotiated more salary, frankly.
Yeah, but they have to prove that
Yeah.
they have some form of insurance.
I would like personally to keep, like, that is an issue. If the staff want to bring that back to the commission and say, here's a proposal for staff and how we can improve staff, I'm okay with that. I want to try to get this resolved for the
And-
five of us.
And to that point, it's something to look at, but, you know, all three unions are under contract right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, that would be something for further negotiations
That's a good
somewhere down
point,
the
yeah.
line. It's just, you know, if we wanted to do a trial basis with general employees or, you know, and see how it works or doesn't
Yeah.
work, and, you know. But, I mean, that's something long range.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Vice Mayor, do you have any comments on this? I'm just going to go down the line.
Seems we just opened up a big can of worms. And I'm not kidding. Let me say that healthcare is my biggest pet peeve and biggest issue, and it has been since I first got to vote for president in '92. We have continued to degrade our plans while paying more money, and that's across the board. When I came into this job, the only benefit we really get is health insurance. Now I gotta decide, I'm not for stipends, and here's why. If I have a better plan with a spouse, we take that. If I have a better plan with my business, I take that. If the city offers me a better plan, that's great, I take that. But I think we start getting into complicated issues of stipends and what I get to have and what I don't. It's all pretty simple to understand how it is. So I'm not big on stipends. You weigh the two plans, you take one or the other, make it simple. Life insurance, $25,000. I don't see no reason why we need to pay. I don't know what the city pays for that, but it's such a minimum amount anyway. I think we can get rid of that. Yeah, that would cover your burial expenses maybe. So maybe that's just an archaic number. I don't see any reason to need to give me life insurance through the city job, so I would get rid of that. You know, you start getting into dental and vision, and to be quite frank, it's just gotten pretty lousy. So you want to know what I really think about this? I think we should have the best plan. And you know what I think? I think we should give all the employees the best plan. But no one wants to pay for that. So that's the real discussion here. Let's bring all the employees up and then see how that goes. Now, we have various people in various different circumstances that have very good benefits retired. I don't want to take away from something because we don't have enough young people to do this job. And if we have retirees doing this job, that's great. They're on a program already. If the city can offer something that's better that they want to jump on, that's great. If it doesn't, then they get to stay on their plan. I don't want to degrade it though, because I think it's just one of the things that, you know, young people deciding whether or not they want to run for elected office, this is pretty much the only benefit that someone can claim. Am I missing anything? This thing is I think it's gonna get all sideways real quick. What else can I answer?
Can I ask your opinion on the FRS, the retirement for the elected officials?
So I'm on FRS, and it's so small that I don't even pay attention to it. I didn't know I got it, and I look at it, and even the way it's calculated drives me crazy because they include the contributions as part of the percentage of gain for the year. The actual gain, it's such a small amount of money, and then they count the contributions as part of the gain, which is absolutely absurd. So, you know, I don't have a strong opinion on that particular one. I don't want to make it. I know this. I don't want to make it any more complicated.
Yeah.
So just you know, I don't want to manage it. It's easy. It's easy. I know it's not easy. That's not the right word. It's not easy understanding the FRS system. But you know, I'm dealing with Roth IRAs. I'm dealing with IRAs, all this crazy stuff. I don't need to get down a rabbit hole on something that I think I have like $15,000 in it. So it's over 10 years. I mean, let's really look at it. So I don't have a strong opinion on that, just as long as whatever we do, we don't put it into something more complicated.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
But I'm all for upgrading the people's plans.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't trying to open the whole can of worms of changing anything other than, right, and again, I'm not asking, nobody has to disclose, although it's probably public information, but right now, there's if you're on the health plan here, you're probably getting paid more to do this job than potentially the guy sitting next to you because he's not on the health plan here. And that's something, to me, we could kind of easily rectify. And, look, nobody that runs for this position is gonna do it for the money or the benefits. I didn't know health insurance was paid until after the election. I sat down and HR started going over it with me, your predecessor, and she was like, which health plan do you want? And I'm like, none, I'm on my work plan. She said, well, we pay for it. I'm like, oh, that's a different conversation.
Right.
So.
Same, right. Same.
Yeah, so nobody gets into it for this. I just think it should be an option that we offer to them. So, all right, so we got a yes or no, Commissioner Sacks.
A question, Heather. Regular employees have free insurance and their families pay 50%, correct? In the sense of fair play, I would like to see the dais, the electeds, have that same type of coverage. The commissioner or mayor has free insurance for themselves, and the family pays 50% like the employees, like the regular employees.
Okay.
That's the only change I'd like to see.
Okay, and you'd like to continue them in the FRS program?
Sure.
Okay, and how do you feel about the stipend if they don't elect any of the benefits?
I honestly don't know, Heather. That's a good question.
All right, let's hear from Commissioner
Yeah.
Colodey. You'll get another bite at it. We're not deciding it tonight, we're just giving staff some guidance on what to draft.
I like that we keep the FRS. We do always try to encourage people to save for when they get older. I do not think we should have stipends at all. Make an offer. I, like the mayor, had no clue that I got any benefits when I came here. So, pretty much the status quo.
Okay.
Just no stipends. Some of the other things, make us an offer. That's it. That's all I could say.
All right. So again, I had kind of one objective on that. So I think staff is going to bring us back. If nothing else, we need to codify what's happening today. So staff is going to bring that back. I think some further thought and happy to give you that time to do that. So I think I heard we're kind of at 2-2 right now. So it'll probably come down to Commissioner Sacks on whether or not the stipend is there.
I'm comfortable omitting the stipend.
Okay. You don't have to make that decision tonight, but Commissioner Colodey.
Well, we have a habit as a board of looking around at everybody else and see what everybody else does.
Yeah.
We're a unique body up here. We're not salaried. We have our 3 charter people who have certain plans. So I just don't see it's all that important that everybody has to be a big homogeneous group. So I don't see the reason why it changed a lot of things.
Yeah, all right. So, if nothing else, I guess we're bringing it back kind of as is, but we codify the changes that we've got made.
I'll do that. Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 8A, public hearing to consider the adoption of emergency ordinance that will waive the restoration work permit fees due to Hurricane Ian. City Attorney, read this by title only.
And because this is an emergency ordinance, it's one reading and it requires a supermajority vote to pass.
Okay.
So ordinance number 7222, an emergency ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach temporarily waiving permit fees for certain permits required to repair damage caused by Hurricane Ian, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, it's a public hearing, and remember the public wish to comment on this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Is there a limit to the restoration? If I completely rebuild my house, or if I'm just, there's got to be a tipping point, I would think.
In terms of the construction cost,
Yeah.
I mean, there is no, if we're gonna waive the fee, the permit fee, then there is no limit to it.
So the way it's drafted, it says, immediately to residents and businesses for improvements needed to secure the single and multifamily residential and commercial structures that do not require detailed drawings that are prepared by a licensed architect or engineer. This shall apply to, but not be limited to, roofing repairs for shingles, broken windows and/or doors, fences that fell down, removal of flood-damaged materials, or other similar repairs resulting from storm damages.
So not a rebuttal. I think the spirit of it's definitely there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
We had a motion, we had a second. Any major concerns, just so if it's gonna, we can address them, because we do need a supermajority, which is 4 of 5, right, Gary?
4 out of 5.
All right. Hearing none, Travis, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks,
Yes.
Mayor On.
Yes.
Thank you.
Why don't we go ahead and do the other emergency one while we're at it? So we'll do that 7322, which is the other emergency thing. Go ahead.
Ordinance number 7322, an emergency ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach temporarily waiving the enforcement of Section 80206 LDR for 60 days to allow for residents who have suffered flood damage as a result of Hurricane Ian to reside in RVs or campers while their properties are restored, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, this is also a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Jess is coming forward.
I'm a little confused though. In the last item, you didn't give a time, start date or end date? But you just said you did.
It's embedded in the
Yeah,
ordinance.
it's written in the actual ordinance.
So,
It's in the agenda published.
Yep.
It's fine. You can go read it, but there is a
It
start.
started October 3rd and remains in effect for a period of 60 days from October
For the
3rd,
last one.
for the last one.
The last one is,
Because that
yeah.
wasn't said, that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that part be read out loud, that's why.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
it-
embedded in the
Okay.
ordinance.
It just wasn't in the title, so yeah. All right, any others for public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
We'll take the vice mayor second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Travis, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks,
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Mayor On.
Yes. All right, now we're to item 8B, ordinance 4922. Second reading and pertains to fences. Carrie.
Ordinance number 4922, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 8 supplementary regulations, Section 80303, regulations pertaining to fences, walls, and hedges, to add references to illustrations, amend regulations distinguishing between residential and non-residential through lots, and prohibiting chain link fences in residential front yards, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, Bob, you got a report?
Yes, sir. I want to start off with, last year you called me out for not wearing pink on Pink Out Day, so
I
I got a
like it.
tie this time.
Way to measure up. I appreciate
So
it.
I thought I'd step up to the plate. Been waiting all year for that. So,
You kept the receipts, man, I'll tell you what.
all right, so staff's requested to review section 803.03, which are regulations.
Hang on, this year I'm calling Travis out, just for the record. So,
Okay.
Next year, buddy.
Next year?
Next year. All
Next
right, go
year.
ahead, Bob, sorry.
in that shirt, doesn't
He stuck a little ribbon on there.
No, it's some pink in the shirt,
All
sir.
right,
Hidden pink.
yeah. Go
All
ahead.
right, so regulations pertaining to fences, walls, and hedges. The main request was to limit chain link fences from residential front yards. This amendment would also allow for vinyl, wood, or metal solid fences or picket-style fences. Staff also found that typical and atypical lots had different regulations between properties that were zoned to residential and properties that were zoned non-residential. But the through lots had no different than the regulation between those properties. So staff has proposed an amendment to refer to, 1, illustrations that were in the code, 2, prohibit chain link fencing in a residential front yard, and 3, separate the regulation for through lots as it pertains to properties that are zoned to residential and non-residential. This proposed went, at Planning and Zoning Board had a vote of 3-1, and so that is the summary of my staff report, subject to any questions that the commission may
Any
have.
questions from the commission on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Bob, had coated chain link fences been discussed, like the vinyl coated as allowed?
The reason for it coming forward with the chain link fences, the idea was, as the city got to the point where we are past the point of having chain link fences in front yards and residential houses, you know, is our minimum standard higher than a chain link fence? And that was the reason for, are we going to remove that as a allowable material in residential front yards? So it's more of an aesthetic. Are we now at a wood, vinyl, picket, and no longer a chain link fence as a front yard fencing?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I would consider it as well. I think, though, a chain link fence sometimes is all that some families can afford to protect their children, their pets. Nonetheless, I'll probably support it. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff on this item?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed the landscaping and the visibility triangle. Is that new?
No, we've had a visibility triangle. There's a section in the ODR for a visibility triangle for all corner lots, and no matter if they're commercial or residential, you can't have anything that's over 3 foot in height on the corner.
Okay, but the landscaping portion of that is not new?
No.
Okay. Maybe I just misunderstood that back in the day.
It was more about for signage, the visibility
Right,
triangles,
fencing. No, I
signage,
get that, but
and
the
any structures.
I specifically saw where it showed landscaping in this one.
Yes.
It emphasized it where in the past I hadn't seen
Yes.
that so much.
Yeah, so landscaping is included, but it's not part of this. It's already in place. And that's really just so that if you have landscaping that's taller that can't be seen, there's something in the books for at least code enforcement can go out there and say, hey, you got to trim your bush down. You can't see down the road when someone does a stop sign or something comes.
So we have that problem on 44. We have a lot of places where we have this problem.
Yeah.
So what does this do? What about creating a non-conforming use for existing? What's happening with that?
Are you talking about the existing fence?
Yeah.
All right, so if somebody currently has a front yard chain link fence, then they'd be considered a legal non-conforming fence. So as long as it's there, it legally can stay there. If they go to
Yeah, it's
replace
not-
that fence, they can't go back with a chain link.
Right. Okay.
And normally we have a 50% rule in the city in the ODR whenever you're doing an upgrade. So if you replace more than 50% of that front yard fence, you can't go back with a chain link.
Any other questions for staff on this? All right, it's a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion on item 4922?
So move.
Second.
Motion to adopt in a second. Travis, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Harmon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks,
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Mayor On.
Yes. All right, that's all the second readings. We'll now go through the first readings. Vice Mayor's in charge for a minute. Go ahead, Carrie.
Ordinance number 6222, an ordinance annexing into the city of New Smyrna Beach .47 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Bayview Drive, north of Turnbull Bay Road, addressed as 1777 Bayview Drive, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 3, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6322. An ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .47 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Bayview Drive, north of Turnbull Bay Road, addressed as 1777 Bayview Drive, from Volusia County Rural to City Rural, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6422, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning .47 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Bayview Drive, north of Turnbull Bay Road, addressed as 1777 Bayview Drive, from Volusia County RRA Rural Residential Airport Overlay to City REA Residential Estate Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6522. An ordinance annexing into the City of New Smyrna Beach 1.62 plus or minus acres of property located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, addressed as 2415 Glenside Drive, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 4, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6622, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of 1.62 acres of property located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, addressed as 2415 Glenside Drive, from Volusia County low-impact urban to city low-density residential. Providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6722, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 1.62 acres of property located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, addressed as 2415 Glenside Drive, from Volusia County R3A Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay to City R3COA Urban Single Family Residential Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6822, an ordinance annexing into the City of New Smyrna Beach 4 plus or minus acres of property located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, providing for redefining boundaries of the city, designating the property within Commission Zone 4, providing for public hearing, providing for required filings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 6922, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of 4 plus or minus acres of land located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, from Volusia County low-impact urban to city low-density residential, providing for amendment of the associated comprehensive plan maps to show the area incorporated into the city, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 7022, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 4 plus or minus acres of property located east of South Glencoe Road at the end of Glenside Drive, from Volusia County R3A Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay to City R3COA Urban Single Family Residential Airport Overlay Zoning District, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. Ordinance number 7122, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 70 Streets and Sidewalks and Other Public Places to regulate the use of micromobility devices within the city, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Second reading and public hearing will be October 25th, 2022. And if anyone has comments or discussion on this item, I welcome feedback. Tried to balance a lot of different comments I was hearing, so if anyone has recommended changes, hearing none.
Hearing none.
Okay, moving on.
All right.
And that,
I think that was it.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Do y'all remember when we used to talk, go through every one of these and make a vote? And we all had to say what we felt, only to say it again on the second reading. No wonder our meetings lasted until 11:30 at night. All right. Travis, those are what we call the good old days. Us old people, we call them the good old days. All right. Boards and commissions, those are both postponed. City clerk is going to continue to work on those. I'm sure she'll bring each of you up to speed on some of those things. Mayor and commission reports. We'll begin with the vice mayor as always.
I don't really have anything more to say other than I have extend my deepest sympathies to all of those who have flooded. It is a truly terrible thing to happen, and your life does not get back together anytime soon. And I can't say enough about what city staff has done. I looked at Rob at the city gym dealing with an emergency situation, totally bewildered, but doing the best he can and making things happen. a lot of people were just thrown into action. Police and fire, you guys, I mean, I can't imagine doing your job where you guys were rescuing people before the actual bad part of the storm hit. You know, the water started coming in at 5, 6, 7 in the morning, and the worst part of the storm didn't hit till around 11, 12, 1 o'clock is when it was really gusting and blowing hard. So, you know, there's so many stories out there, and I think the more we talk about them and the more we learn about them, they're also important to listen to and recognize and talk about, because that's really what makes a community strong. And although we were predictably unprepared because we weren't supposed to get anything, you know, so many times we're told we're gonna get 15 inches of rain and we get 3. You know, this is one of those times where we were supposed to not get anything close to what we got. And we responded, though, and we've done the best we can. We've done a great job. Khalid, the hours that you put in with all the little sleep that you have. I mean, you know, I hate to mention people because I know there's so many I'm not mentioning, but great job for everybody, fire, police, Khalid, all the staff. I mean, amazing, amazing job to pull together and get as much done as we can, as quick as we can. That's all, Mayor.
And it truly was everybody. I mean, I walked in the gym and then walked this guy. And it was a Saturday morning, and Travis walks in. He's just there to help. Like, he didn't have a job. He just literally heard that we had people in the gym, and he showed up, and he walked up to Colin, and fire chief was there at the time, and was like, hey, what can I'm just here. I'm here to help, you know. So truly everyone. So awesome. Randy.
So, you know, I want to echo that along with staff, but what I also saw was there were people in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, we had an employer who helped an employee, and those employees helped other employees, and it was amazing as to the resiliency that the community had at the time. And as I've always said, you know, the greatest asset that New Smyrna Beach has are its residents. And I firmly believe that. I think that's what makes New Smyrna Beach what it is today. So, you know, I just want to thank everybody out there that had any part in this. And then we have to welcome Phil's new house guest. For those you don't know, him and his wife have a new house guest at their home, a lovely little girl. Stop by Phil's office. You can see the photo gallery started. So mom and baby are doing home fine. They're all at home, and, you know, just as much as Phil was glowing the first time, he's glowing this time also. So congratulations to Phil and his wife, and, you know, we look forward to seeing those progression pictures.
All right. Commissioner Colodi?
Well, basically we survived another storm. We're here. We were prepared. It's just the storm was a little greater than we thought it would be. As I said earlier, there's so many factors that enter into how a town is affected by something like that, and you can't be prepared for every single little thing. That's all saying that. I think everybody involved did a very good job on it. I have no areas other than little things here and there that we can improve upon, but overall it was an excellent job. The only other thing I have to say is I know you're all tired of hearing this. The budget. We increased the millage rate. We are doing something that must be out of touch. We often look to all of our other towns in the county and the county itself and try to stay in touch with them. Of the 18 towns in the county, there's only one that raised its millage rate. Everybody else took advantage of whatever they had to do that. We didn't. We charged people money that they could probably use on their little day-to-day stuff. Granted, it's a relatively small amount, but it's still an amount. That's it. Thank you.
I think if you look at a trend, though, there were years where everyone else raised and we didn't. So, I mean, That's my only flip side to that equation is we probably should have done this other years and didn't, and so now we have to do it in a year we probably shouldn't have. So I'm not disagreeing with your point. I just think it has to be looked at in totality.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. I just want to add this discussion tonight about the request for the waiver and the variance. I think, just my own thoughts, we kind of ran the applicant through the ringer. I've seen many variant requests come before us in the 8 years I've served the city. And sometimes I think we are on the mark and sometimes not. And I hearken back to the time one of the planning board members told me that they drove down the street and said, I didn't approve that. And it just happened. And it happened through all processes that the person that came before us had incurred to her. The contractor said, I will get a permit. They paid for the permit, never got the permit. Then they came and, for whatever reason, built out, and you know how I feel about permeable space. I feel it's very valuable. I don't feel that the impingement of any excess water would have made a difference as compared to the difference it would have made to the gentlelady that came before us with a need. And you know, the adage, maybe Commissioner Vice Mayor McGurk had heard it before. I've heard need or greed as far as variances go. For me, this was definitely need. I had quite a few ex partes with the applicant and could see there was a need. Was this properly done? No. But then again, and I know it's difficult and maybe unfair to look at all the other properties in that neighborhood, and I'm familiar with that street and cul-de-sac. Have a few friends that live there. Just about everybody has a big wide driveway in front of their house. Yes, of course, this was done wrong. But I know one thing, here we are quibbling over feet when she has this need just to get to the front door. And the original picture looked very difficult. So yeah, yes, it's true. I appreciate you guys going back and forth. I learned a little more about the variance process, but at the same time, she was fretting about this. And she knew that it was built wrongly. But I think, you know, out of grace, we could have just said, you know, this was a mistake on a lot of people's parts and let it go. That's just my feeling on that. As far as this hurricane goes, you know, I've lived here since I was 16 in Florida, experienced quite a few, probably 12 to 15 or more hurricanes, including Andrew. And understanding that cities like Miami, like Houston, like New Orleans, like New York City, they cannot handle storms that are as epic as what came to us. And you look at the West Coast and they're totally wiped out as if they were Mexico Beach up in the Panhandle. We saw that. It was just boards and people's belongings. And we see that here now. We'll see plant waste material on the side of the road. Then we'll see somebody's whole house is outside on the road. And that's where you hurt so bad. Because I was hurt just a little bit. But then the next person down the way is really wiped out. And so I was invited over to Locust. And we know historically both the barrier island and the mainland are really in harm's way because it's just the nature of where we live and the geography. But in talking with the neighbors on Locust and knowing that whole area that extends all the way to the west to Peninsula and north, probably for 5 square miles, I'm guessing, is a bowl. And we had to go in and put in a stormwater system. I can't speak to whether the storm water system is adequate for an average storm or not, but I do know this. After this storm, I've seen some failures in the street. Some of the machinery had failed. And it's only normal if it's run by electric or gas in a storm that's that epic, it could fail. It will fail. I think the decision we made back in '21 to not purchase that property on Locust was a good one. It was very difficult because I don't think it would really affect their flooding of their homes in a regular storm. In an epic storm, there's no way anything we could have done would have remedied that. So I just want to end by saying, I know Khalid will do it, but I think we have to go back and review all of our stormwater systems, especially the new ones that have been put in the last 8 to 10 years, because we put in hardware on a marsh, basically, on the mainland, and a sandy barrier island on the beach side, and they're not firm, okay? So the pipes and the grates and the machinery that we put underground may not be stable, and it may fail. And I think that was partly what caused the problem on Locust. And Locust is a bowl. And so with that in mind, I would like to see us really act to resilience and not just speak of resilience. We need to look forward because, you know, we think of global sea rise and the problems it has. We never would have thought that 20 inches of water would totally, I would say, inundate our city and the surrounding areas. I saw some photos from Edgewater, just astounding how much water. Can we ever mitigate something like that? I don't know. Looking at what just happened to the West Coast, to Sanibel, Marco, Fort Myers, I don't think we can mitigate it. But again, it's like Commissioner Hartman said, the charm isn't in our trees, it's not in our beaches, it's in our people, because they really come out to help each other. The minute that wind dies down, you know, and the fire department can get out and the police can get out and cruise, and everybody gets out with their rakes and they want to see who needs what. And it's happening, and it keeps happening, and it's going to happen until we get back to whole again. And I hope that happens very soon. I know it's going to take probably a year at least for most people to get back. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Yeah.
I know, it's tough.
Yeah, I'll yield. Thanks.
Anything else? Was that was it?
No, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, certainly all the residents came out tonight and spoke, you know, a lot of passion. I mean, it's, and I'll be honest, everyone that was impacted, it was a major impact. We didn't really hear, though, from the hardest hit areas. You know, I know we heard from a lot of folks concentrated on a couple of streets. I'd invite them to tour Pine Island. I'd invite them to tour Timber Trace area where, you know, the entire neighborhood is just gone. And so I you know, certainly we're going to do everything we can. We're going to take all the lessons learned, and it's kind of going to build to my next point. But yeah, we didn't hear from the worst areas because frankly they have better things to do right now than come talk to us. They're still dragging stuff out to the road, as Khalid mentioned. You know, I mean, my street. Drive down my street, and there's a whole section of my street where every house, everything in it is sitting out on the curb. And you know, so this storm, this actually was more of a mainland event. I think anywhere in the Turnbull watershed was kind of the hardest hit areas. So, and unfortunately, that's the area where we haven't had time yet to make the stormwater investments that we're going to make. I mean, you know, Corbin Park area and historic West Side. So. I covered off everything earlier I wanted to cover off on, but my ask of the commission is, I've talked to staff about this as well, so I'm not catching them blind or flat-footed, but my ask of the commission is, does anyone, I'll put it this way, because I don't want to, you know, we're at 9:30, I want dinner, frankly, but Does anyone have an opposition to having staff bring back to us at our next meeting? And it'd be a first and second reading, so I wouldn't be able to even see this through, but come back at our next meeting with a measure for a moratorium, and I'll let them figure out how to craft it, because it won't be for everything. Obviously, rebuilding is gonna happen. But for any major new construction, I don't even know if we've got anything on the radar right now, but any major new construction, I just would like to see us giving our staff, our planning and zoning, or our planning staff, our engineering staff, giving them all a second to, first of all, remain focused on those that are hurting right now. So I want all efforts on issuing the permit for the guy who just lost everything versus the guy who's trying to build, the new 25 homes or the new 50 homes. And I want our engineering team to go out there and do some assessments and say, hey, is there anything we can learn? Let's look at what areas got hit hard and what could we change and what might we want to weave into our LDRs. So I don't just want a moratorium for a political whatever, because frankly, I don't need it. I'm gone. So, but I do think it could serve a purpose. I think it could serve a purpose for a community, for a team. So I would only ask it with this caveat of staff come back and say, and here's what we're going to do during that time. Here's the deliverables that we'll bring back at the end of that time. We'll have done this assessment. We'll have examined these LDRs. We'll be ready to discuss or have brought substantive change, or at least be able to brief you on, the flooding engineer expert you talked about, be able to brief you on all of those things before we kind of, if I can use probably the wrong cliche for the moment, but before we open the floodgates back up on development. So does that give anyone heartburn to bring that back? And I'm happy to hear if it is. It won't offend me.
So I don't have heartburn on the idea of the moratorium, but I think that fits in line with what I want to accomplish during that period is I want facts.
100%.
Because there's a
100%.
lot of speculation out there.
Yes.
I want us to be able to have a fairly high level of confidence of what happened.
Exactly.
Did the new developments not get designed right? Did they fail? Or did they do what they were supposed to, and was it just the sheer amount of water over a certain amount of time? I think we need to hire an independent expert to be able to look at this and bring back a report on exactly what happened. So yes, I have no problem doing that. I like the idea, but I want out of that time period to accomplish some factual
100%.
report that we can give to our residents and talk to our residents.
Agreed.
And show some model.
And hey, here's the changes that we're either already making or have made based on what we learned during that time. So again, we're not deciding, we're not voting on this tonight. Staff is going to take what they hear tonight and bring us back something in the future. So unless you're just opposed to that for some reason, that's the ask of the staff. Go ahead.
Wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it, but my concern is, once the word gets out, are you going to have a flood of people submitting projects? And is that just going to create more headaches up front? Because we've seen this happen before. I think when we did the tree ordinance along State Road 44, there were applicants submitted. We have others when we were discussing reducing parking or parking requirements, you had applicants submit something to get in the pipeline before we changed any ordinances. So that's my only concern. I don't want to.
Good point.
I like your idea, and I think that's the way to go. I just don't want to create a backlog going into it to where staff is just overwhelmed.
Yeah. Good point. Colin, do you have any?
Yeah, I think it's, if you put a time limit on it, because if you have a big project, it's not a matter of, they're doing a moratorium, let me submit something tomorrow. So it takes them time to meet with the staff and submit the set of plan that they need to submit for a site plan. So you could put a time on it, say, hey, anybody who hasn't submitted for the last 2 months, that's it. From this time on, you want to do it for 6 months, 4 months, whatever time you want to do it. So I think we could control that, and I don't see big project coming in so quick.
Yeah.
It takes them. I know there's a site plan that it's been going on for almost a year between going back and forth. So I'm not really concerned about that one.
Mr. Mayor.
Good call on. Yes.
Yes, I support the idea as well. I did mention quite some time ago that I would like to see some peer review when these big projects come with their expensive attorneys and consultants and tell us, oh, no, everything's fine, just do what we tell you to do. I think it should be the other way around. And that little bit of money spent, because I think it would be a little bit of money compared to possible flooding from major urban areas where there is no permeable surface. You know, just little things like that.
Okay. Commissioner, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
To develop the studies that we're thinking about asking for take a long time. A study like that could easily take a year. There's no quick way to do it. I would favor a moratorium as long as we implement it soon and have a relatively short duration, maybe even 60 days. And I think in that time period, let staff come up with the plan forward as to how we could address these things. I've looked at, I looked at the map that was prepared, very good map. There are things that can be done on a much more, not global basis, but area basis. The plans we're working on now for West Side and the Corbin Park area, when they're implemented, will have no effect on the amount of flooding you have in your neighborhoods now. They won't do anything to reduce it. They're going to deal with short-term, lower intensity stuff, day-to-day life. But overall this, you want to do something, put a levee around. And it's not, it's a very cost-effective way to do it, around Pine Island. How many properties you got there?
They did
Keep
it in Lake
Turnbull
Okeechobee.
Creek out of the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a possibility.
Levees.
Things
All right.
like that got to
Okay.
be looked at.
Got it.
And that can be looked at in a short
During
term.
the time. All right, so Carrie, I think what I heard is support. We're gonna rely on you all. You heard some other things. I certainly would, if you have feedback on that, if you think more on it, talk to your planning staff if there's a way to address that. Carrie, as far as timing, I'd say come in with a blank and give us where you think you can defend from a, 0 to X, and then we can fill in that blank up here after some debate on the night of, because I don't want to spring it on anybody. So if you're comfortable with that for that first reading, or no? Do you need a?
Yeah, well, so you all know just from our previous discussions that there are some legal landmines involved.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just want you to keep in mind is that the agenda deadline was today at 5.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just a little cautious about rushing, so I don't want it to be a rush job just because there are legal landmines involved. So I will see, I don't know about turning it around for the very next agenda. I
Okay.
will see
If-
what
if
I
not,
can
that's
do.
fine. Yeah.
But
If not, that's fine. I
Okay.
think,
it's just something I want to do,
we want to do it well, yeah.
Methodically.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there was another, I know in that email we get daily, I feel like there was another city that just did this. I want to say Deltona maybe, so that you may.
I
could
know
start
it's
with a-
it's a very, trendy's not the right word,
No,
but,
no, I know, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a hot topic.
I brought it up first.
Yeah, okay.
We were talking about it, me and you talked about this 4 months ago.
Yeah.
For a different reason.
That was the land, Mayor.
Was
I
it
think
the
It was
land?
for a specific
Yeah.
project.
It was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
land.
Anyway, so if it's not achievable, I'm not asking to move heaven and earth. If it's not achievable, that's fine. I just think that with everything we've just gone through, I think personally it's the right call, and let's
Yeah.
put it in front of whatever commission you can get that in front of. So-
Well, and that won't stop us trying to, look at the modeling and flood engineering
Yeah, for sure.
experts and, kind of proceeding and kind of making the pieces
Yep.
start.
All right, that was all that I had, in addition to the ample praise I gave earlier. Commissioner, or City Manager.
I just want to say a few things about flooding, and I'll leave it at there. If you look around the map and you see where the house is flooded, it's in low areas, in a flood zone, and not only that, but the most important thing is the finished floor elevation of the house. So sometimes what happens is, and I could give you an example that in '94, the Country Club Chalet got flooded, especially the east end. It was built in, I guess, in the either late 60s or early 70s. They did not follow any FEMA, any stormwater, whatever. So the east end, the lowest house finished floor elevation there is 4.3. We put a pump for them. The pump, we put 1,300 gallons in the pump, and we turned the pump on, and they went, they're gone. But you could do anything you want. That elevation there, 4.3, is almost 3 foot below the 100-year flood elevation. So you could do any system you want, as long as that house elevation at that level, they will flood. So the only option is either you demo and rebuild, or you elevate the homes. The biggest example is, look at the Central Beach with the 60 homes that we have that flooded last time. We put the system in. We didn't have 60 homes flooded, but we have some homes flooded that their elevation is below the 6.6, if you remember, from the river when it rises. So we could talk about it all day to design a system, but when you have 21 inches of rainfall, I have not seen a system in Florida that I know of going through, different seminars and conferences, and you hear about these things. Commissioner Colodi yesterday was telling me that when he was designing a dam in New Jersey, that I guess it's the requirement he had to design it for 27 inch. But I have not seen in Florida. The maximum I've seen is the 100-year storm. So I'm just for that. But I want to go back and just echo what Vice Mayor and Commissioner Hartman said about this community. And I've seen it hurricane after hurricane. The community is so strong, and they will come back and rebuild and get back to normal. The thing is, what really concerns me is those homes that we have. I'm not sure how, out of the 850, how many that they are low, that they have to. I mean, they cannot continue like this, and that's what I'm really concerned about. Am I going to have another 1,000-year storm or 500-year storm? I cannot guarantee that. It could happen tomorrow, but probability-wise, it's not going to happen, but it could happen. So, thank you, Mayor, and I do appreciate the support of the commission throughout the hurricane. I think that made the staff work harder. So, and believe me, as far as FEMA, they have gone door to door. I know some people actually have received money from FEMA.
I do as well, yes.
And they, tomorrow morning, they will open the Disaster Recovery Center in Daytona, and I continue to talk to the county because I think they sent it to the state now. And I just asked him yesterday. So we'll continue to do that, and so hopefully they'll have one in New Smyrna. Thank you,
Colin. And seriously, no one of your team, I don't know that anyone outworked you as far as the number of hours put in. So we appreciate you being the leader out there throughout that process. So,
Gentlemen, forgive me, I forgot something very important. We have spoken a few times about the commissioner's promotional fund.
Yeah, the 2,000 each.
2,000
Yeah.
each. I would really appreciate it if you would join me. I would like to pass on $1,000 from that fund, from all of us, or me, it doesn't matter, it's from that fund, to the Council on Aging, either the Council on Aging or the Meals on Wheels program that they help with. I think it'd be a very good idea at this time, whatever we can do to help them. I can't, I just wring my sweat when I think.
I don't know.
What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, can he just work with you on that? You don't need anything from us, right?
Yeah, I think I think what happened is we talked about with the commission discretion. So if the commission agreed with it, we'll do that.
That's very good. Yeah, I don't see any.
If you guys want to
objections
join in, that'd be great.
Yeah, I
Find
don't-
people that,
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what, I'll have to talk to Colin about what, I don't.
Yeah, hold on,
I
you
haven't
get,
used any of mine.
I'm not approving any, you know, in other words, if there's some kind of money that's at your discretion, you want to do, that's fine. I've never used that money, I have no
haven't either, yeah.
intention on using it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
it's up to you.
So however you want to do that, give us that.
yeah.
Will do.
Okay, so,
Thank
All right.
$1,000, I guess, I mean, each commissioner had a 1,500, so $1,000 that to go to the,
Yeah,
Thanks, Phil.
yep. Okay, city clerk's report.
We have nothing, sir.
Good job tonight, Travis.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You were diligent in getting everybody's name and address.
I tried. you
Now I'm
know.
wondering what Kelly does, because she doesn't make them all come over and check in with her.
Well, because
so-
she's better at it than me.
Oh, is
but
that
she-
it?
yeah, Of course.
I think she goes back and watches the video, or a lot of these people are, you know, they're old timers, like we.
Sure.
You know, you know 'em,
Absolutely.
so,
But
anyway,
thank you. I really appreciate all of you all. Thank you so much.
Good job, seriously, appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
and thanks for your help in the storm. City Attorney.
All set.
All right, and again, to City Attorney's Office, I mean, I know people think that us white-collar folks don't get our hands dirty, but City Attorney's Office right there in the EOC, drafting emergency ordinances, you know, working remote, figuring out who had internet access, so thank you to you as well. So, appreciate it. All right, no other business, meeting adjourned.